Hello, everybody. This time it says my mic is working. Michael, can you hear me, brother? I can't hear Michael. No way, no way. Welcome in, guys. This happens every time, and we think we're gonna eventually get it figured out, and we usually sometimes
wait. It's me. It was my fault.
There we go. Let's go. That was a lot smoother than it's usually been. Welcome in, everybody, to episode number 9. Man, it's been 9 episodes of this wonderful pod. See, that scared me a little bit because I thought we had like a third person joining in who had no idea who that was. But welcome in, everybody. Thank you for your patience. This was very smooth, though, compared to previous episodes. This is officially the Talk Footy to Me podcast. I'm OfficialH2, joined by my lovely co-host, my brother, Mykal87. Michael, say hi to the people, please.
Who the fuck is that guy?
No, what's up, everybody? It was very smooth.
Yeah.
We're working on it. It's improving.
It's improving.
We're a work in progress.
Absolutely. Aren't we all a work in progress? I want to apologize first.
I've peaked.
Yeah, you've peaked. Yeah, there we go. There's hope for some of us, I guess.
It's funny when I say it. It's not
Yeah.
funny when you say it.
Yeah. I just want to say, firstly, thanks for your patience with this past week. As you guys know, I just had not a very consistent streaming schedule, so I wasn't able to upload episode number 8 to all the lovely platforms that we do upload our podcast to. So there will be a double upload after this one. Hopefully in the next 24 to 48 hours, you will have this live on YouTube, as well as on Spotify, Apple Music, all the places that you get your podcasts. Which, again, we want to thank you for the phenomenal support. People are downloading the podcast, people are listening to the podcast, people are watching on YouTube. If you can continue to show support, it just helps us continue to provide, I'm not going to say quality content to you guys, I'm just going to say content. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's pretty good quality content. But welcome in, everybody, on Twitch here, on Michael's channel and my channel. And without further ado, I think let's just get straight into it. It's been an interesting week. Of course, no Premier League this past week, which we will obviously not have much to talk about there in terms of match action, but we can get into some Premier League stories and stuff later in the episode.
Oh, I guess we could mention the fact that Diego Costa signed for Wolves officially.
There you go. There was a scare. Yeah.
There's 6 work permits being submitted.
Yeah, there was a bit of an FM/Football Manager moment there where the work permits were getting rejected for Diego Costa. But have you guys seen? Did you see the announcement video, by the way, where he's holding up a bunch of?
It's so cringe.
I know. I agree.
That's an interesting topic. Do you like those like announcement videos, or are you like an old school kind of like here's him holding up his shirt in front of the contract kind of thing?
See, it depends. So I like the ones that get you hyped and like emotional, like, standing in the stadium looking around or something like that. I don't like Burnley did a funny one for Jan Matson when he joined them. I think I talked about this on the podcast, the Minions announcement. And
oh yeah, that was so cringe. You like that one?
No, I didn't like it. I'm saying it's funny how like far-fetched some of these are getting. I would say I'm more like a classic one, but like then we don't have some like funny memes like the "Come to Besiktas" meme when Pepe and those guys were on the phone saying "Come to Besiktas." Like, so yeah. I'm kind of, it's like a mixed thing, but I do feel like the more classic, the better.
Do you think they had to pay for the rights to Minions in order to get that to work?
I honestly don't even know. That's a very good question. Or like, remember when Alexis Sanchez was playing the piano when he signed for United, or Pogba and Stormzy were, yeah. Gibbard in chat says the funny announcement videos are good. It adds a bit of personality that has left football. What do you think about that, Michael?
I think the funny ones, like, if they're actually funny, like the Minions one was cringe, and I hated that one. But like the actual funny ones have potential, and I think that they deserve to be there. But I don't know. Like it makes sense, you know what I mean? But I don't know. It's for me. It's I'd rather. So it's gonna be really funny considering how much hate we've given them, but I actually really like the Barcelona ones where it's just like their video is like him is like whoever the player is usually doing some keepy uppies in front of the Barcelona logo and like a whole kit. I hate that they use like that Barcelona like spare tire football that they always use for him. So
yeah.
I remember Dembele was getting a ton of shit for his because he couldn't like they signed a 5-star skiller and like he couldn't do 2 keepy uppies. So that one's really funny, but again, it's like that fucking spare tire kind of football that they use. It's like sponsored by Pirelli or some shit or whatever. So
yeah.
I like. So I agree with you though. I think the really suspenseful, cool ones could be really dope. Yeah. Like I think those have potential.
Yeah.
I liked Sadio Mane's for Bayern, where it was just like him
Wasn't
like,
it
in
the city
city,
skyline behind him or whatever?
Yeah, they had like it was them having lunch, and he just happened to sign his contract while they were having lunch, and it's like you can see all the background of it. Like that one was really cool. Like it was like a less formal, more casual, but still down to business kind of clip.
Yeah.
But like I think that the Wolves one was the reason the Wolves one was awkward, right? Is your team is you're playing for Wolves, right?
Yeah.
It's like he signed to play for Wolves. That video where he has the wolves he has are on a chain / leash, and he's like holding them back.
Yeah.
That to me is like that would be more of like what a team who just beat Wolves would want to do.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like you want to unleash them, not hold them back, type of thing. Yeah, like I get what you're saying.
Like he's supposed to be a wolf, like so why is he
and like
holding
it feels a
other
little forced. Like I agree with Giver to an extent. Like if done well enough, I think it does add personality. But like with the Diego one, like Diego was one of my favorite players, actually probably top 2 favorite player for me when he came through Chelsea. Like I have his jersey upstairs and everything, but it was so corny. Like
that's a controversial take.
No, 100%, bro. Diego Costa, 100%, man. Animal, absolute animal. In such a short time, he won over so many Chelsea fans, and just I can't. Yeah. Anyways, that's a story for another day. But bottom line, you have this like they're just trying to force it on his personality. You know what I mean?
So wait. Drogba is your number one.
Drogba and Diego. Yeah, I'm not talking about
Costa,
skill.
no.
I'm not talking about skill wise. I'm talking about players that made me feel a certain type of way. I'm not talking about skill wise at all.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Just like
you personally like. Okay.
Obsessed.
That makes sense.
Like absolutely obsessed. But yes, that is. It just feels forced, man. It just feels forced. Like it's Diego Costa, so we have to do some super aggressive, crazy thing that didn't even, like you said, it didn't even turn out that aggressive. It was kind of corny, I would say.
Imagine trying to explain it, because his English is bad, by the way. Like
terrible,
even when he was with Chelsea, he still took. I don't think he ever fully learned English.
No, he didn't.
He speaks more Portuguese than he does Spanish, even.
Yeah.
So like, imagine being the translator or just trying to explain it to him in his understanding or broken understanding of English, that he's going to be sitting there with wolves. He just walks in the room and there's 3 fucking wild wolves sitting there, and he's got. By the way, you're going to hold these off leash.
Fuck, man, it was so weird. Anyways,
I didn't enjoy it at all. Like,
yeah.
He's gonna fit right into the fucking Portuguese second team because he speaks Portuguese. So,
do you want to know what my thing was, man? I rolled out of bed, I saw the announcement, and I literally just rolled my eyes the moment I looked at it, and I was like, "Here we go!" Like it's so predictable. Like you knew they were gonna do some corny stuff like that, and that's exactly what they did. As not a walkout here echoes your sentiment, Michael, who even speaks English at Wolves though. So there we go.
Their head coach, which is probably why they're performing so shit.
Yeah, Diego Costa apparently said he didn't like it and he was scared of the Wolves. Says Giver.
As he should be. Imagine they go through all this trouble to sign him. They submit 3 work permits, and then one of those wolves goes rogue.
And he gets rabies,
they turn around.
My man comes from the streets of Brazil and survives it, but gets bit in Wolverhampton by a wolf.
Could you imagine? Oh my god, that would have been like the lifetime meme of that club forever.
God,
like,
man.
Could you? FM would have to add that to its game, because like your star striker got bit by a wolf in a promo video. He's out for 6 months.
That would be hilarious, man. Well, not hilarious. That would be pretty shitty, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Also, what happens then? Is he just rich forever because he's able to sue the club?
Lifetime lawsuit.
That's not football related, is it? Like,
no. And he could literally say that his whole career has been affected by that. Well, whatever career is left, the 6 months he has left. Anyways,
you got one. Yeah, now you got one striker who's got PTSD from breaking a skull. You got the other striker who's got PTSD from being mauled by a wolf.
#wolves. But yeah, that was pretty much the biggest story in the Premier League. was that. But yeah, we're gonna start over in Italy today, guys. We're gonna start in Italy with a quick repack. By the way, forgive me, guys. I've been talking for hours today, as you guys know, so I will try to do my best. But Michael is gonna be the star today, as he always is. But anyways, here we go. Napoli, Spezia. That was the first game to kick off Serie A, and Napoli with a 1-0 win. They left it late. I went back and watched the highlights for this one. Yeah, 89th minute. Giacomo Raspadori. I was just sad that my boy Quaradonna, aka Kvara Kvaratskhelia, was kept quiet this game. No goals, no assists. Still looked pretty good through the game at points, but Napoli find a way, and spoiler alert, that takes them top of the league. What do you think about Napoli, Michael? Is this a serious title contender, or is it very early days?
You can't have a 1-0 win against Spezia at home and be considered a title contender. Like, yes, they're top of the table right now. But you look at who they're sharing the table with Atlanta and AC Milan. I think it's a matter of time before this team falls off, because like they haven't really played anybody that makes me go, wow, they're title contenders right now. Like you look at in league who they've played so far. What is it?
What about the Lazio win? I think the Lazio one is the one that sticks out. The 2-1 against Lazio was a big one. Other than that, they drew with Lecce and Fiorentina. They beat Monza 4-0, which is probably expected. They beat Hellas Verona 5-2. So Lazio is really the only notable result they've had.
Yeah, Lazio, and 2-1 result at Lazio is pretty decent, but as we saw today, Lazio is kind of not really a serious team. Their 4-1 result against Liverpool should be respected, but again, in league, if we're looking at strictly in league, I don't really. It's a team that I don't really want to take serious yet because there's still a lot of holes in that team that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like their midfield is the rotation in midfield, and none of those players really make a ton of sense to me. And losing what the hell was his name? That
Fabian
Ruiz.
Ruiz,
yeah. No, was it Fabian? Yeah, Fabian. Yeah,
Fabian. Sorry,
went to PSG. So now that Elmas and Anguissa are like their best.
Yeah.
Going forward, unless you really want to classify in Ndombele.
Yeah.
But there's just not a lot about that team right now that makes me go, yeah, title contenders.
So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say, you know what? They're actually doing well because they're balancing Europe as well. Like they haven't played anyone notable, and that's the big caveat to what I'm going to say. But like when you look at who's been kind of scoring for them, when they do score, it hasn't been as one-dimensional as I thought. I thought it would be heavily reliant on Osimhen kind of getting most of the goals for them. He's hurt, and they're still finding a way to score here and there. You know, even the game against Liverpool, I think he scored the one goal, missed the penalty, and it was other goal scorers who were stepping in. And again, this Kvaratskhelia kid is special, man. I know it's not a one-man sport, but as long as he's on your team, his understanding with Elmas and all these guys around, yes, they haven't really played anyone notable, but again, as Stefan says in chat here, AC Milan versus Napoli this weekend. So that's a good test for them, I think. Eh?
Even then, it's AC Milan minus Rafael Leao. So, it's still going to always have an asterisk next to it. Which you got to play what's in front of you, right? So
yeah.
But that's going to be, I do agree, that's their first real test because I think the AC Milan team is really well-rounded front to back. I think that they're probably a young striker away from being a Europe contender, AC Milan that is. But I will say credit where credit's due. Napoli is finding a way to string wins together. In this Spezia game, they did hold Spezia to only one shot on target. So and that was the big thing that we had questions about them with losing Koulibaly. Are they going to be good or bad defensively? Exactly. And they've been able to rotate a back line that's getting the job done. Exactly. It's not always necessarily pretty, but they're getting the job done. So
according to WhoScored.com, too, their player of the match there was, I think, the defender Jesus, from what I remember when I looked earlier. So it was interesting exactly to see defensively that they're doing a job. Speaking of AC Milan, then their next opponents, a good point you make is that Rafael Leao is kind of the main topic at Milan, but he will be suspended because he got a red card in Milan's weekend match against Sampdoria. Milan ended up winning the game 2-1. You spoke about this earlier off stream with me. The ageless Giroud finds a way to get on the score sheet again. Speaking of the Leao red card, I think it was, yes, contact was made. It was a pretty wild attempt at a finish, but I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm encouraging dangerous play, but I like when players go for plays like that. It kind of draws comparisons to Haaland's high boot in the Champions League during the week where, you want your strikers going for those balls as long as it's not inherently putting someone in danger. But of course, when you have a defender trying to head the ball away and a bicycle kick flying at you, that may not be it. Just want to get your thoughts on that whole thing, Michael.
Yeah, I think it's a bad ultimatum, right? Because what you're instilling is, like you said, you put that high boot up there like Haaland. If Haaland scores that goal, it's a goal, right? Because he makes contact with the ball. But let's say that the keeper comes across or a defender comes across, and now instead of getting the ball, you get him in the head.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at a red card situation. I feel like if it's a genuine attempt to go for the ball,
that's what I'm saying.
Foul, yes. Yellow card, yes.
Yeah.
Red card, no.
Yeah.
And it can't. There's no way it could be a straight red, because for me, straight red is. It's hard though, because at the same time, you look at it's a dangerous play because you're making contact with somebody's head.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, like, it's such a bad ultimatum, but I also understand the rule as it's written right now. And so is it a weird red? Do I not like it? Yes. But is it technically what's by the rule of law?
Yeah,
it is. So it sucks. And it's awkward for him to get that, but
yeah.
it's rule. It is the rules. So,
yeah.
But interesting news out of AC Milan that came out this week. I don't know if you've kept up on this, but Real Madrid have been toting around a couple different bids for Rafael Leao, as they're apparently going to play him on the right.
On the right.
No, they're looking at bringing him in on the right hand side, I guess, or up top. Which I think that Vinny Jr. is their primary thing on the left. So I don't know what they're going to do. And maybe they go with like what Bayern has right now, where they kind of have like a rotating 3-winger system.
Yeah.
Which I think we're changing the game, by the way, because we're starting to see that in a lot of different leagues. But AC Milan have put a price tag on him for 120 million euros.
Yeah.
Which I think he's worth it. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, he is. He's definitely special. He's a special talent. You've spoken very highly of him. I enjoy watching him. I think he's one of the most exciting talents. And actually, it's interesting because two of my favorite players to watch operate in the Serie A, Kvaratskhelia and Leao, who I wish they would have met next weekend. But again, Leao will be suspended for that. Here's the thing. I think there's still a huge fee owed to, I think it was Sporting Portugal that he came from. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was a team in Portugal. One of those teams. And I think they're owed a few million in loyalty or something from him, and so
it's not from the club though. It's from the player.
From him, exactly. But what I read,
breached his contract. Yeah,
he breached it exactly. But Milan are looking to try to because there's something going on behind the scenes where the club is trying to pursue it from Milan, and Milan's like, this has nothing to do with us. All of this, basically, there's a cloud over Leao.
No, it is Sporting. You're right. It was Sporting. Sorry,
it was Sporting. Yeah. So I think Milan is trying to see if Leao extends. That's perfect. Their future is set. He's the guy they build around. It sounds like, the sporting director spoke about how the Milan project is going to be centered around Leao. If they find a game-changing bid for him and it involves clearing their name from any potential thing that Sporting goes after, which really they have no right to from what I understand, because like you said, it's based on the player, but I have read that Milan are looking to get that debt taken care of somehow, some way. So it's going to be interesting what happens with him.
So what happened was it was a bunch of players that if you don't follow Liga NOS, by the way, in Portugal, that league is fucking crazy. Like, it's one of those, like, if you're winning, everybody loves you. The minute you do something wrong or lose, then everybody wants to kill you. And literally, I mean that. Like, I'm not joking. But he and a bunch of staff were attacked off the field after I think they lost a game to Porto, I think. But they performed poorly, and then they got basically ganged, like, by a bunch of fans. Like, their own fans beat the shit out of them. So the term they used is unilaterally terminated his contract, which apparently the club did not agree to, but he made the decision where he was terminating his contract and left. And so the club was due compensation, and he actually went and signed with Lille before he signed with AC Milan. He played there for a year, and then he joined AC Milan on they paid 23 million euros for him from Lille. So Sporting believes that they're due at least some of that, because he should have still been under contract with them because they never agreed to the termination. So I think AC Milan wants to pay it off, so that way he basically doesn't have that looming over his head.
Yeah,
because otherwise he's got to pay off this like debt over time. It's really, really, really weird. But I think back to the price tag, though, I do think he's worth 120 million euro price tag, especially if you're going to a big club and a Champions League contender like Real Madrid, because the minute you take, and we'll probably see it this weekend when they play Napoli, you take Rafael Leao out of that AC Milan team, and they're a lot weaker side. They do have Rebic who can play in that position as well, but he's just not the same type of player that AC Milan need.
Yeah.
But the other interesting news for AC Milan, this one is directed at you, because Origi's been playing like shit for them. Their winter target that they want to get to bring in at striker, since no Zlatan this year. I don't know if you've heard that. Zlatan's out for the rest of the year.
Recovering from his knee, yeah.
So they need another striker to play behind Giroud, and Origi's been absolute dog shit. They want to bring in Jonathan David from Lille.
Would love that.
That's one of their transfer targets.
Jonathan David is one of those players, as a Canadian, of course, I have a soft spot for, but he's so underrated. I was speaking to somebody about this in a stream on Twitch. I forget who. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, but would you want him to be a number 2? Because like right now he's the number 1. He's starting every game for Lille.
So a number 2 at a team like Milan, yes, 100%. Because I think,
but they still start Giroud every game. Like he'd be off the bench probably. He'd probably come off the bench every game, because Giroud doesn't really play a full 90 very often.
So the way I see it is, even if he goes there as a number 2 this year, Giroud and Ibra, as good as they are, as much as they are, they're not going to be starting consistently over the past this year. I don't think, at least. Jonathan David can learn from 2 absolute elite strikers, I think, of course, Zlatan is an icon of the game on a global level, but Giroud is a very, very good striker as well. And for Jonathan David to be in a position to learn from those guys, Lille is a good fit. He's starting all of that, but you and I both have spoken about Lille and how they're kind of in an in-between weird phase where they may just blow things up and rebuild, or we don't really know what's going on. To go to a team like Milan,
have to if they lose Jonathan David. They'll have to.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no question.
And so I think to put all of that on him at Lille isn't as healthy as maybe taking a step to Milan, which is a step up in terms of prestige, but a step back in terms of playing time. But again, he can learn from two absolute great strikers.
24, 20.
Yeah, he's mid-20s for sure. I think he's around there. Jonathan David.
He is
22. 22.
Wow.
Oh, he's still, he's really young. And
born in New York, by the way.
Born
he
in
chose
New York,
to play for Canada.
Yeah, he's a Haitian and Canadian national after being born in New York.
It's okay. We'll win a World Cup before Canada does. So
I don't doubt it, man. You guys. Wait, what? Why that's not even a comparison? But I think
we would have if we had Jonathan David at striker. That would have answered a lot of questions for us.
You know, he gets disrespected a lot by the Canadian men's national team, by the way, and I'll speak on this when we do our CONCACAF series. But anyways,
he should have capped for USA. Then he would have been.
Yeah.
But I think that answers a lot of questions. I think that's actually a good move for him if he decides to make it. I think it's like you said, that's going to be a big decision for him at 22 years old, going from starting in a team who is playing European football consistently, who is playing in the top flight in one of the top flights in the world. I mean, he is going to AC Milan, so that's, a top team in a top league as well. But he's looking at cutting his playing time at minimum in half. So I hope he evaluates it correctly, because I think that'd be a great move for him. Because as you said, being able to learn from both Giroud and Zlatan, would be a huge addition to him, because right now at Lille, a lot of what he's doing is just physically, like he's physically dominant because his speed and his strength, like he's able to get into good positions and just kind of outwork some of the defenders that he has coming against him. You add in like Giroud and Zlatan, who are clinical in goal or in front of goal. I think if he can pick up some of those traits and skills and knowledge of getting into the right position, because Giroud is dirt slow. Like I think I have the same pace as Olivier Giroud at this point in his career. And I'm fat.
I would argue at any point in his career, he's never been a very fast striker. Like he's found a way to finish.
He's always in the right place at the right time. Like 100%. He just knows
instinct.
I would say he's really good at sprinting, but he doesn't have the ability to, like, it's really, he surprises me, because if you look at him, if you watch him play, the minute he realizes where he needs to be, he can get there. He has that burst.
It's his strides too. He's a tall guy as well. Yeah.
So I think, and if Jonathan David could pick up on that, like that hunter prowess of like, this is where I need to be, this is where I need to go, then he has the potential to be top flight. So
100% interesting.
I would love to see that talent at AC Milan, especially if they're able to keep Rafael Leao, who's only 2 years older than him. The combination of those two would be dangerous.
Tonali in midfield.
Because they're both ginormous, like big units fucking running up front too, who are like crafty on the ball. So
100%. Really exciting times for Milan. Let's see what they do. Speaking of the city of Milan, let's move over to the other side and Inter with another late goal here, 89th minute, same minute as the Raspadori goal for Napoli.
Brozovic, by the way.
Yeah, Marcelo Brozovic, the Serbian midfielder. I didn't get a chance to watch, but I'm guessing he was just marauding into the box for a late run and ended up finishing. If that's wrong, correct me. But yeah, from what I could tell, it was a scrappy game against Torino, who are usually a scrappy team to play against. I was asking questions about Torino when they lost Bremer to Juventus, their center back, and Bellotti obviously is also out of contract, so Torino is looking different. But they made it tough, but ended up kind of folding to a late goal. Did you have any comments on this game?
No, I did watch the highlight on this. It was a very chippy game. There was a lot of fouls back and forth. This game, a lot of pushing and shoving in this game. I think that was Torino's play style, is like they wanted to kind of rile Inter up, because this was Inter coming off of their loss from Bayern as well. So like I think they were trying to capitalize on that. So it was a chippy game back and forth. Pretty even overall. I mean, possession was pretty even. Torino actually was very clinical with the shots that they took. They managed 9 shots, 7 of them hit the target.
Yeah.
So it was a good game for Handanovic. Racked up quite a few saves, but
Yeah. I think he got, according to, again, who scored, he got the highest performance score for Inter Milan.
Yeah, so very chippy. Brozovic, he's second in the team in scoring, by the way. He's only 1 goal behind Lautaro Martinez. So
where's Lukaku? I think
has
he's
yet
injured
to
right now,
score.
but yeah.
Yeah. So very, very chippy game. And again, late, like you said, another late game. But again, do you care where 3 points come from? Usually not.
No,
So
3 points is 3 points.
I think that this is one of those games where, like, if they would have drawn, if like this would have gone to the end of it, you look back at the end of the season, this was one of those games. Like last season, they drew in a game, and that ended up being the one game that cost them the championship. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to get those 3 points, and considering they're 6th on the table currently, 2 points out of first, if they would have drawn this game, they would have dropped down to 7th, and they would have been behind Lazio. So, it's even though it's early in the season, these points are already starting to matter, because this race in Italy, like we talked about beginning of the year, Italy is that league right now where it's a 6-7 horse race, and it's really going to come down to probably the last match day for a lot of these teams.
100%, guys. The Serie A is a very exciting league to watch. If by now in week 6 or whatever we're at, you're still not watching the Serie A, get the message, guys. Watch the Serie A. Phenomenal league. Last week's leaders, Atalanta, were held to only a point by Cremonese. Took until the 74th minute for Meri Demiral to score, and then literally 4 minutes later, Cremonese got one back to make it 1-1. Udinese continue rolling. They beat Sassuolo 3-1. Udinese, you've talked about, very nice team. I've talked about, very nice team. Solid win for them. Bologna 2, Fiorentina 1. Arnautovic continues scoring for Fiorentina. Just looking at this week, by the way, we've talked about red cards around the world. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red cards in match week 6 of the Serie A. What is this, the French league? Very aggressive games.
And 2 of them in the Juve Salernitana game.
We'll get to
and
that was a juicy one, yeah.
If you guys want to watch Meme Lord football, watch the ending to Juve and Salernitana.
Yeah.
Or Salernitana, excuse me. I always say Salernitana, but it's Salernitana.
Yeah.
But that game was crazy. But yeah, the Udinese Beto, by the way, is like, keep an eye on him. He's developing really, really well with Udinese right now. So I'm excited to see what he becomes, or what becomes of him. But Udinese, by the way, had to climb back. Sassuolo was up 1-0, and then they got a red card just before halftime. It was just a dumb foul that ended up in a red card. And then they came out really, really defensive. Sassuolo, I could tell that they were going to shell up and kind of hold on to that win. But they allowed Beto to score in the 75th minute to come to a draw. And then Udinese scored in the 91st minute and the 93rd minute of a 94-minute stoppage time. So they really got like a Football Manager FIFA type of result there, leaving it till late. So and that's again why I'm saying I'm trying to push people to watch Serie A more, is because it's a very exciting league.
100%.
This league, every single team in this league, all the players are playing 100% for the badge. Like, you don't see people that are just there just to play, like you would in some of the other teams in the other leagues. This league is a passion-driven league, and it doesn't matter if you're in first or if you're in 16, 17. Like, everybody's playing 90 minutes like it's their last 90 minutes, and I love it.
Absolutely. Phenomenal league indeed. And then Roma with a 2-1 win over Empoli. So where does that leave the Serie A then? After 6 matches played, like we alluded to earlier, Napoli sit in first place, but like Mykal said, 1st to 6th is separated by 2 points. It is early days, but let's go through it. Napoli in first, Atalanta trailing them on goal difference, Milan as well. So all 3 of those are on 14 points. Udinese find themselves in 4th, Roma in 5th, Inter in 6th. Juventus, we know they've been struggling, but they're sneaking around. They're in 8th place, and they are 4 points off the top. Maybe it's not all doom and gloom for them, Mykal, just yet. They're finding a way to stick around, but it doesn't look very convincing, does it?
Who was that? Sorry,
Juventus. Like, they're finding a way to stick around. Like, they're 4 points off the top, but it just doesn't feel like they're firing on all cylinders, if that makes sense.
I did see a stat today that they have 1 win in their last 7 matches total played, league and all competitions. So he's starting to get on the hot seat, right? Because like you said, they're slowly dropping down the table. They're in 8th. They're on their level with Torino on points. They're only ahead on goal differential. Salernitana is just behind them by 1 match. So when you see Juve start to slipping down the table, that's where, especially when you consider some of the purchases that they made. The they're definitely struggling without Delict. I will say, like you selling Delict, they're probably having buyer or seller's remorse right now with what they're doing because it doesn't make any sense for me. Like Bremer has not been the fill-in that they wanted to, and his partnership with Bonucci has been absolutely terrible. Like I don't know what they're gonna do there. We saw one game where they started what was his name? Not Alexandro. It was their other
Danilo? Is it still?
fullback.
Is it the Quadrat? Not on the left hand side.
Yeah. The other Brazilian guy, I forget his name. They started another one though at center back, and so I was like, I don't know if he knows what he's doing defensively. And again, another game when they lost to they drew to Salernitana, they had a fully defensive midfield with Moretti, Paredes, and McKennie. So 3 defensive midfielders in the midfield in a 4-3-3. So I don't really know if he knows what he's doing. He started Moise Keane again at right wing. This time he did start Kostic and Vlahovic essentially on the left. So he's got a little bit more consistency from Kostic in starting, but he doesn't really know what he's doing on the right hand side because Di Maria has been hurt and hasn't been able to play a full 90. And to be fair, Di Maria when he comes on has been hot dog shit. Chies's injury is really stressing him on that right hand side. But yeah, I think Juve need to start pressing the panic button because if you look at some of the games that they're having a slip away, I mean, it took them until the 93rd minute of what ended up being a 100-minute game to draw against Salernitana at home, by the way. So yeah.
Speaking of speaking of that, we'll just take a look at who's in the top scoring statistics after 6 weeks. You'd expect Vlahovic to be up there, but he's actually not. He's tied for second. So Arnautovic for Bologna has 6 goals. Beto for Udinese has 4. Vlahovic and Kvaratskhelia also 4. So interesting to see that, the Vlahovic isn't running away with it in Serie A. In terms of assists, Roberto Pereira and Delafeo, both Udinese players in the top with 4 and 3 respectively. Sergei Milinkovic-Savic also on 4 assists. So very interesting league, guys, and I think can't say enough about how exciting the Serie A league is. So
on and off the field, by the way, because you got the whole Pogba drama that's going on. You've been keeping up on that.
Yeah, the brother, wasn't he arrested for extortion?
Yeah, he got arrested, and I think they're trying to arrest another one of his friends or something like that for extortion.
Such a crazy story, man.
What is like?
Yeah.
If you're here's a scenario. If you're Deschamps, right? If you're the France manager, do you even like? I don't even think Paul Pogba is gonna be fit, but let's say for the sake of argument, he is fit. Do you bring him in to France? The French team to play for you in the World Cup?
Not right now.
He's got going on?
No, zero chance, bro. Like even if the juju isn't real, even if he's not trying to put spells and witchcraft on his teammates, there's just so much dirt going on. If you exclude Benzema for his mess with Valbuena and all of that, you can't really bring in Pogba while this cloud is hanging over them. As much as I hate to say it, I am someone who was patient with Paul Pogba. A lot of people turned on Pogba and said he's an absolutely useless player. I've always had somewhat of a weird soft spot for him. Regardless, this is just getting even too crazy for me. I don't think you bring him too much distraction.
I was really high on Pogba when he was even. I mean, you guys know I've spoken so much of my love for Serie A and how I love watching it. But when he was with Juve, like that Paul Pogba, by the way, was probably top 5, easily top 10, but probably top 5 midfielders in the world at the time. 100%. And there's a reason he got Man United wanted to bring him in. Yeah, but the minute he put on that red shirt, it was a complete waste of talent. So it'd be interesting to see how he turns around, because I think that Juve needs his creativity in the midfield. I think his ability to kind of turn something into nothing, and his flair, honestly, is probably what Juve needs more. Like his flair to be a little bit more crafty in the midfield probably is what they need too. So but yeah, if I'm French's team manager, I'm staying with you. I'm not bringing him in. You got to figure your off field shit off. Like I understand that you're a professional player and you should be able to leave that shit at the door, and that's what you, as a coach, you tell them to do. But at some point, it becomes too much of a distraction, especially because now some of the rumors or whatever is impacting the team and like things that he's doing towards his teammates. Like at that point, you need to stay out. So
yeah. Speaking of your sentiment here, Olympic Links in chat says Pogba in his first Juventus spell was only matched by Modric and the Real posse, in my opinion. Maybe Thiago. I can't really disagree with that.
In the world of when he was at Juve, the only other person in the world at the time that were probably better than him was Modric for sure. Kevin De Bruyne was equal. That was Kevin De Bruyne was still on the
Was that
up, but at the
Wolfsburg?
time,
Was that Wolfsburg De Bruyne? I think maybe. I'm not sure.
no, early
Oh,
Man City.
yeah.
So it was like
Okay.
right around then.
Yeah.
And then probably Toni Kroos and maybe Thiago, maybe, but it was definitely Toni
Yeah.
Kroos or Rakitic, honestly. So
Yeah. 100%. All right, moving on to La Liga then. Let's go over some of these results and figure out what happened there. The breaking news of the La Liga match week was Celta Vigo scored a goal, and it wasn't Iago Aspas. Just kidding. That's not the news. The big news is...
I have something for this one. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the biggest news I would say for me was... yeah, there we go. Shock face. Sevilla beat Espanyol.
This is right after we told everybody to bet the house on Iago Aspas score.
Yeah, literally.
So hopefully nobody listened to it.
If you guys were here last week, we talked about how Borja Iglesias always scores for Real Betis, and Iago Aspas always scores for Celta Vigo, and then Celta scores a goal, and it's not Iago Aspas. But Sevilla wins
right after we told everybody.
Right after we told them to bet the house, exactly.
Oh,
Sevilla off the mark, 3-2, a red card for them late in the game. Lamela doing Lamela things. He scored in the first minute and got a red card in the 84th. I mean, that kind of sums up Eric Lamela, I would say.
I think he got an assist too. I think he got a Gordie Howe hat trick.
Yeah, the Gordie Howe hat trick. And Braithwaite scoring for Espanyol. So 3-2 Sevilla. I'm going to run through the results and then we can just kind of talk about the games we won at the end. Girona beat Valladolid 2-1. Late goal from Oriol Romeo, former Chelsea legend. Just kidding, he was useless there. Vallecano beat Valencia 2-1. Valencia had a good result last week and got a little bit humbled here by Vallecano. Cadiz fell to Barcelona 4-0. Cadiz is kind of a bogey team for Barcelona. I was at the Camp Nou last year when Cadiz beat Barcelona 1-0. And so this was, it's kind of a bogey team in some people's minds, but Barcelona was dominant there. Real beat Mallorca 4-1. Bilbao beat Elche 4-1. Getafe beat Sociedad 2-1. Osasuna continues a strong season, beating Almeida 1-0, and Betis beating Villarreal 1-0, which was a surprise because Villarreal was doing very well to start the season and they fell to Betis. What do you want to talk about from this, man?
We also said that Betis scores and it's
Borja Iglesias, and he didn't.
And
it was
so what we learned this week in Talk Footy to me is don't listen to H2 and Mykal in terms of your
betting. Have a betting disclaimer.
Yeah. The Getafe result over Sociedad was really surprising to me because it was an action-packed second half. Like the first half was kind of back and forth, but the second half was where everything popped off. And then it was Sociedad trying to chase the game for the rest of the match, and Getafe just kind of bunkered in. But a really, really exciting match, but surprising result. Sociedad is definitely the better team in my opinion than Getafe. So that was a good result. Athletic Club, excuse me, or Bilbao, if you want to call them that, whatever you want to call them. They won a game that they should have won, but for me, the big thing there was Inaki Williams continuing his starting streak, even though he was on I think his ankle is they said he's 50%, but if you watch him play, you couldn't tell. So very, very interesting. I don't know if they're injecting him or what, but.
Can we talk about how this season Real Madrid is literally the team of 70 plus minutes? I mean, they did score in the first half here in stoppage time of the first half, but again, man, in their 4-1 win against Mallorca, it was 72nd, 89th, and 93rd, and we saw that in the middle of the week as well. Late goals, man. Are they just... I've said this in our Discords. By the way, if you guys are not in Mykal's or my Discords, we do have live match chats and stuff like that, places for you to talk about anything football related. So feel free to join those. But during our match day conversations, I usually say it feels like a matter of time with this Madrid team. And are they the kings of late goals? What's happening there?
They don't have a clean sheet yet in La Liga either. So I think that they're still trying to figure out what they're doing defensively. Rudiger has not really slot in as comfortably as I thought that he would. I think they're still trying to figure out because he's been the clear number one center back at Real Madrid. I think they're trying to figure out who his partner is going to be because he and Militao really haven't been on the same kind of pace. I don't want to say pace, but communication. And then this game, Alba started next to him, and same kind of thing. it's a little bit more comfortable, I can tell, but there's still kind of holes in there because when Alba was starting with Militao being as fast as he is could kind of cover a lot of ground for Alba, excuse me, and you can't. Rudiger's not that kind of player. Like he's not gonna cover enough ground for two of them. So that being said, the goal they conceded was on a set piece. So like I don't know if that's as much as it is on it was a far post set piece too. So like I don't know if it's as much on the center backs in that situation as much as it is maybe the rest of the team needs to be a little bit better marking wise. But they scored some bangers too. So Valverde scoring a rocket from outside the box. You got Rudiger on a set piece. So they're getting it done. Like we talked about earlier, 3 points is 3 points. And, when you're a team of Real Madrid's quality, you need to be able to get the 3 points no matter who you're playing against or what it takes. So, I'm sure they'll be happy with it no matter what's going on. But, usually in this league, you can get down to a goal differential situation. So, them not being able to keep a clean sheet might become something that they need to keep an eye on too. So, but for me, the more important thing is that Real Madrid has been able to do what they have been doing without Benzema. Your boy Eden Hazard's been starting at striker for him, and he's been doing pretty well. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. This is the kind of player that we wanted him to be. Granted, he's like a lot older now, so you're not really seeing the exact same Eden Hazard that we really wanted, but you're starting to see a little bit more of him kind of come out of his shell and finally fit into the system. So if he can stay healthy, I don't think he pushes Benzema out of position, obviously, but he's
still some production.
He might be able to push Rodrigo out of position on the right hand side. Yeah. So
interesting.
Good team.
Yeah, very good team. They find a way, man. I want to touch on a couple of things in chat here. If you guys are listening to this, of course, on all your podcast avenues like Spotify, Apple Music, or watching on YouTube, Mykal and I both stream this on Thursdays over on Twitch under our channels, so feel free to join us there so you can interact with us just like these lovely people are doing in chat. I want to bring something to the forefront here. Ladlin in chat says, have you heard about what's going on with Vinicius Jr.? Some pretty disgusting stuff happening in Spain. I said I wasn't fully aware. I know that he's been receiving a lot of attention from players who think he's being a little too cocky with his showboating, stuff like that, but other than that I didn't know. So Ladlin enlightened us and said a media pundit called him a monkey for expressing himself, dancing, scoring goals, and said he can only do that in Brazil. And then I know this part because the Atletico players were saying they're warning him if he does. That is a huge. We'll get to I'm gonna get to that right here. And then Ladlin also said, I read this part, the Madrid thing, that Koke said if Vinny danced after scoring, Atleti players wouldn't let it slide, and neither would the supporters, literally threatening him physically, etc. First of all, as a person who is not, like, my skin color is, whatever, I don't care. Bottom line, racism is unacceptable. It's horrendous. It's disgusting. You don't use those kind of words, especially for, anyone of color, let alone, you just don't call people like that. So that's ridiculous.
I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt, given the context they put it in. It might have been not the best word to use, I would say. Yeah. But, as someone who's in the media, you got to be aware of that kind of thing, because you're right. 100%. I'm not taking away the fact that there is no room for racism. Period. There is none. And if that's how your words are going to be construed, then you obviously should have chose your words better. But there's no room for that. And if that person has a job still, then that's terrible.
No, 100%. I mean, I remember when Dani Alves had a banana peel thrown at him and he just picked it up and ate the banana. Like, those of you who have kept up with Brazilian players playing abroad in Spain, okay. Anyways, racism is disgusting, no room for that, and you have to watch what you say, especially on a public platform. Like, I've always said this, people say locker room talk, this and that, not when you're broadcasting. I mean, you shouldn't speak like that even privately, but if you do, that's none of my business. But if you're like kind of on a platform where people are watching and listening, that's not good. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as far as the celebration thing though,
I was gonna move on to that. What do you think about this?
Like, what if that's such a problem for people? One, you're soft. If you don't want a player to score or celebrate after he scores,
then don't let him score.
Like that to me is soft. That's a soft mentality. And if for club captain Koke if he actually said that, that's really soft of him, and that means that you're already conceding the fact that he's going to score against you, which is a bad mentality to have.
Exactly. Like,
and then also, why wouldn't you 2-foot Messi when he held up his jersey against? I mean, granted that was against Real Madrid, but like, If he does that type of shit, why wouldn't you do
keep
that?
that same energy, right? For me, this is the biggest thing, bro. What you just said. If Koke was a real, like, if this was a real thing to make a statement, it would be like, Vinny likes to dance when he scores. We're not even gonna let him dance because he's not gonna score against us. That's what you say. Not if you score, I'm gonna break your legs. Get out of here, man. I hope Vinny scores 7 on them now.
I hope he scores and then he goes and dances in front of Simeone.
Like like Emmanuel Adebayor back in the day runs all the way across and just
starts
dancing.
I hope he does. He does, honestly.
Speaking of celebrations, I know we haven't gotten to Ligue 1 yet. Of course, everyone's waiting for the French. I'm just kidding.
I hope he does like a fucking like you know what I mean? Like given the words that guy said, I actually hope he does like a you know what I mean? Like one of those I fuck that. Like or Also,
Neymar.
I hope he scores a hat trick and he dances every time.
Me too.
Backflips one, takes his shirt off the other one, and then just
Also, Neymar. I know we haven't gotten to Liga, but Neymar got booked for putting his hands in his ears and sticking his tongue out, I think, and like taking her shirt off, going into the crowd. Okay, but now we're starting to book like showboating celebrations. I don't really like that.
That's Memphis Depay's signature celebration.
Yeah, but he stuck his tongue out, so it's rude, right? He didn't just stand there like this. So, anyways, I just want to see a couple.
Remember when Cavani used to get booked for doing his
Archer? Yeah. Ladlin continues on saying Griezmann literally did a Fortnite dance at the Bernabeu, and Koke was right next to him. Exactly. So I'm going to be watching this Madrid derby and hoping that Vinicius bangs in goals.
That's been a very interesting thing too for Atletico Madrid is the 61st minute sub of Antoine Griezmann every game. Have you been keeping up with that?
I'm not.
Apparently there's a clause in the contract where if he plays more than like a certain amount, or if he plays before, like I forget what the exact wording is, but essentially if he comes on the field before the 60th minute of any game that he plays, they have to pay like a substantial fee for him.
So they're subbing buyout, him out right before.
So yeah, every single game he's basically getting subbed on at the 60th minute, the 61st minute.
Oh my god,
it's been a meme at this point. It's like there's a meme of him going like it's like Simeone looking down the bench and going, okay, get Griezmann, that kind of thing. And there's I think it's Out of Context Football's been tweeting like him getting subbed on at like 61st minute, 60th minute, 61-2, or like it's crazy. And it's funny to me that he's okay with it too. Like at what point are you like,
do you
as
say,
a player,
guess
like,
what? Yeah.
Fuck it, I'll pay the fee. You know what I mean? I just want to play football.
Yeah. But, okay. And with that said, very juicy topics here. Of course, the bottom line is no room for racism. Watch what you say, but really, I just want Vinny to go off on the weekend. After 5 matches, then Real Madrid sit atop La Liga with 15 points. Barcelona with a higher goal difference than them, but 2 points behind in second place. 13 for them. Betis on 12 points in third. Osasuna still in top 4, man. They're doing well. Villarreal in 5th. Bilbao in 6th. Atletico in 7th. And that win for Sevilla, that was such a big point for us, moves them up 1 place. They are now in 16th. So they're still hovering close to the relegation zone. Sevilla is by no means clear of their early season struggles. In terms of... Go ahead.
Never mind. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. And Lewandowski leads the league in goals with 6. Iago Aspas.
That's what I was gonna say.
Go ahead, yeah.
That's what I was going to say is Leva's getting to the point now where he's scoring every game. So this is the form that we thought. Remember when he didn't score the first game and everyone was like, he's finished, he's garbage. Oh my god, what? No, this is the Lewandowski you paid for. So
100%.
The league needs to be on notice.
Lewandowski's scoring goals and it's scary. He's on 6 goals, and then the 2 guys we already talked about, don't bet your house on them because they didn't score this week. They're frauds. Aspas with 5, Borja Iglesias on 4, Vinny on 4 as well. Assists, João Felix with 3, and that's kind of the only big name on here. Alaba popping up with 2 assists on the season. Cool. Let's move on to a league that is near and dear to Michael's heart, as well as Olympique Links in chat here was asking, have we covered the big Bundesliga? Here we go. Bundesliga.
I don't want to talk about it this week.
So for those of you that don't know, Michael is a Bayern Munich supporter, but let's go. I'll go through all the results here, and then we can speak on which games we want to talk about. Augsburg 1-0 over Werder Bremen, a good win for them. Leverkusen still just were they won in Europe in the middle of the week, which was nice, but they drew 2-2 with Hertha Berlin in the Bundesliga. Hoffenheim beat Mainz 4-1. Leipzig finally get a win over Dortmund 3-0. Bayern and Stuttgart 2-2. Michael said he doesn't want to talk about it, so we'll move on. Wolfsburg 1-0 over Eintracht Frankfurt. That was a big one for me. Schalke 3, Bochum won. It is Bochum, but GG's to Schalke, man. They get a win on the board, and that is good to see. Union Berlin beat Köln 1-0, and then Freiburg and Mönchengladbach with a tough 0-0 draw. Speak about it, brother. What are we talking about?
So the game I watched on Sunday was the Union Berlin game. That game was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. It took an own goal by Köln to for Union Berlin to win, and then they didn't really have a whole lot more offensively going on. It was a really back and forth game, and then Cologne got a really late red card that kind of sealed it up for him. But there wasn't like Union Berlin didn't really have a good flow to them. So I'm wondering if we're starting to see their peak. Again, they're getting
Europe.
Yeah, they're getting 3 points, and that's all that matters. Which keeps them top of the table, by the way. But I think we're starting to see their peak, and I think teams are starting to really kind of figure them out. But they're a young team, which, like you said, even though they're juggling Europe, they have like players who are just running and running and running and running and running. So that was a really, really good game. The Freiburg Gladbach game was that one was a boring result. It was a 0-0, but it was also a boring result. But the Leipzig Dortmund game was a big result for me. Leipzig getting back on the score sheet, and they looked dominant the whole time. And Dortmund is a good team, but this was kind of what I expected. I expected Leipzig to be able to bounce back in this match, and really kind of make a statement that they're recovering, having a new coach in line, having like some new system, and getting a little bit more of a steady identity behind them. But Dortmund is also playing suit to not really having a consistent identity yet because of some of the young players that they need to rotate around. So
you know what the big thing for me in the Leipzig game was? The fact like they scored 3 goals, which was great, but they didn't allow Dortmund to get a single shot on target. And I think that was a big takeaway, that defensively Leipzig really looked like they had it together. I think it was Orban who had a great game, and I think Diallo was his partner. And I was impressed with the way both of them kind of kept Dortmund quiet.
Well, they came out with a lot more clear cut. I didn't like their previous manager had a different lineup every single match that he came out with them, not only in the league but also in Europe. So with this formation, you got a little bit more clear cut of who was in charge. Like Leimer got back to being a defensive midfielder, which is his natural positioning. You had a clear cut back line that had an identity and knew who was in front of him and knew what space they had to occupy, to whereas before they kind of were a little bit lost. Like he tried 3 back a couple games, he tried 5 back a couple games, he tried to do a 4 back. So this was like a clear cut system for them. And then their front 4 was the same kind of thing. They had a clear front 4 identity with Szoboszlai, Forsberg, and Nkunku, and then Werner in front of him in his natural, where this is where Werner for me was top performing. Was back when he was just a natural striker for him. So I think this is going to be a little bit more consistent for them going forward.
Someone that you've talked about before, are you still kind of surprised by Nkunku's season this year? Were you expecting a little more from him? Is it okay? Kind of your thoughts on that, I guess?
I want to give him some time because he was played out of position a lot, the previous manager, at the beginning of the season. I feel like he is somebody who can play anywhere and everywhere. But when he is one of your best offensive weapons, you don't want to put him in a defensive position, even though he can play defensively. So I think right now they're playing him out wide as an option that can rotate into a central position if need be. I think that's going to be better for him long term. So I knew as soon as they brought Werner in, his kind of center forward kind of position was gone. And so now with Forsberg being healthy, I think you're gonna see, and Orban coming back healthy as well. I think you're gonna see a little bit more of him kind of floating out wide, which is where he naturally was. So I think I want to give him some more time. I think that's going to be not Orban, excuse me, Danny Olmo. I think that's going to be better for him. So give him time. But Dortmund need to figure out what they're going to do because they're up and down a lot right now.
Exactly. Stefan in chat says this is like the perfect chance for Dortmund while Bayern drops points and they're still not really doing much, Dortmund.
Yeah. Well, they're also they have a lot of young players as well, and they're kind of getting a weird mix of Champions League football and
Mm.
now the league football. And I thought they played really well against Man City until the last 20 minutes of the game. So, um, I picked them to be third, fourth this year. So,
Yeah.
um, they're losing games and dropping points where they shouldn't be. Although this Red Bull game is a game that I think you're at the end of the day you're okay with this dropping points here, because you're playing on the road against a good Red Bull team that's kind of making a statement. So, but they've also dropped points in other games that they shouldn't have. So
100%.
and the same kind of thing that we're doing, we're dropping points to teams that we shouldn't have been.
Yeah. We as in Bayern, for those of you that don't know.
Bayern, yeah. Bayern's been dropping points but it was on the road, so like a draw on the road, you're kind of happy with that. But then this game, we were really sloppy defensively in the second half, and to concede a penalty in stoppage time, like that's such a heartbreaker. Like, and you could see, like, it was a clear penalty. Like, do I agree with it? Yes. Am I happy about it? No. But it's the right call for the ref. It's just fucking annoying that we allowed them to claw back into the game, because we also bunkered in, and I've never seen a Bayern team that wanted to bunker in for like the last couple minutes, and we did this game. So
yeah.
I'm not happy with that result at all.
Takeaways, man. Musiala still looks so good, and Tell looks like a bright spot for Bayern as well. I think he's one to watch for sure. But
you can tell, and that's the thing. Like, no disrespect to Tell, but starting him in a game like this means that we were disrespecting Stuttgart when we shouldn't have been, especially given our position on the table right now. So.
I mean, yeah, and it's kind of that thing where you juggle, right? Like, you have Barcelona in the middle of the week, and that kind of probably, which we'll get to, of course, for the midweek. Okay, Schalke 3, Bochum 1. I think that's a big one for Schalke. Shout out to them. They looked good too. Like, they played well. There's not much you can say there. I'm personally excited to see Schalke back. First win on the board. That takes them up to 12th, which is nice. I'm hoping they can stay up. We do have a Schalke supporter in chat, Olympique Links, and they say that they expect, hopefully, Schalke to have a squad to be able to stay up this year. So good to see Schalke back. Any other ones you want to talk about, I guess, in this roundup here, or should we move on?
No, I think the Hoffenheim was a good result too. Granted, mine's to get a red card on the road, but I think the Hoffenheim getting a good result. Wolfsburg getting a result against Frankfurt. Frankfurt are bleeding points right now, and I think that the increase in competition for them in the Champions League is really going to hurt them this year. So, and losing Kostic to Juve, I think is going to hurt them. So,
yeah,
I think this is the year where they're probably going to miss European football next year, because I don't think they're going to be able to recover.
And then Freiburg with a draw. So where does that leave the table then? After 6 matches played over in Germany in the Bundesliga, Union Berlin swap with Freiburg because of their win. Union Berlin now sit top on 14 points. Freiburg in second on 13. Bayern with the superior goal difference, but 12 points gives them third place. Hoffenheim in fourth. Dortmund in fifth. Mainz in sixth. Any surprises towards the bottom? Again, I think when I scroll down, Leverkusen is the name that sticks out. Still struggling in 17th. One win out of 6 is just not good enough. Goal difference is -3, so they're not really getting blown out or anything. They're just not scoring and kind of dropping too many points that they shouldn't be dropping. So hopefully they can turn that around. Looking at who's leading the league then, it's Niklas Füllkrug from Werder Bremen, tied with Geraldo Becker from Union Berlin, 5 goals each. Nkunku on 4 and Jamal Musiala on 4 goals as well. And then top assister is Randall Colomwani from Frankfurt, 4 assists for him. So yeah, interesting. It's an interesting time in the Bundesliga. Bayern dropping points, Dortmund not really capitalizing. Union Berlin, will it continue? Freiburg came back down to earth with a point last weekend. Lots of storylines to watch in the Bundesliga. Moving on then to France. We'll just breeze over these here. Marseille looks good again, 2-0 over Auxerre, but it's Auxerre, so no offense. You kind of expect that. Alexis Sanchez scoring again. No, that was last week. Sorry, my bad, guys. This week was Lens. Lens started the week off. Lens wins again against Troyes. We talked about Lens, and we were full of praise for them. A 1-0 win for them was good. PSG with a scrappy 1-0 over Brest, and I was looking at Neymar, and he is balling out this year over there in in the most competitive league in the world. He has 8 goals and 6 assists in the first 6 games. So he's doing some good stuff there, but we'll touch on that a little more. Marseille with a big win over Lille, though, 2-1. Alexis Sanchez did continue scoring. So Marseille with all 3 points. Strasbourg, Clermont Foot 0-0. Angers beats Montpellier 2-1. So that's 7 goal. I think it was a 6 or 7 goal performance from Montpellier a couple of weeks ago. Looks kind of like a fluke now. Nice beats Ajaccio 1-0. Ross Barkley played very well in this game from what I remember. Toulouse beats Reims 1-0. Lorient beats Nantes 3-2. Monaco beats Lyon 2-1. And Rennes beats Auxerre 5-0. Anything that stood out to you? I guess PSG kind of struggled against Brest a little bit to get goals. That's probably the main storyline from this week, hey?
The only game that I actually watched from French football this week because of their schedule was the Monaco-Lyon game, and that was a very, very exciting game. Lyon had a ton of possession, and they I was really surprised that they were dominating Monaco, and Monaco were just clinical in the counterattack that they had set up. Mbolo had a pretty good game until he was subbed off. I was really surprised that he wasn't able to I was really surprised he wasn't able to get a goal.
Yeah.
And I think it was just set pieces is where they actually took advantage of it and got goals from. So, very interesting performance. I know Nubel was one of the one of the keepers that were talked about for Bayern as like a long-term replacement, and I don't really know if that's going to work, but he had a good performance. Lyon had 20 shots, 6 of them hit the target, and they only conceded 1. So this was a very scrappy game, but the rest of the league just kind of makes sense. There's no really shocking results here that make me go, oh wow. Other than maybe PSG only getting 1 goal against Brest.
That's the main storyline. Yeah,
but I also think that they were managing a lot of legs for this game. If you look at like Marquinhos didn't start, Verratti got subbed off, Danilo Pereira started, Mbappe got subbed off, Neymar got subbed off, Bernat started over Nuno Mendes. They were kind of rotating players in and out a little bit. Brest also, by the way, had a penalty in this game in the 70th minute, and they had a chance to steal a point against PSG. Big Donnarumma with a save. So
GG.
Yeah. So
GG with a GG.
That's probably the most surprising result, I would say, is that PSG just didn't look as good as I thought they would against a team like this. Like, you're already in a farmers league, and then you play like a team of fucking school teachers, and they only managed 1 goal. So
it's a little harsh on Brest. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
I know. I'm gonna get some DMs now all of a sudden from
hey, I'm a Brest fan, and we are not school teachers. Okay. I think the big thing for me was Marseille winning 2-1 over Lille. Again, Lille's kind of in that in between. But Alexis Sanchez, great start to his time at Marseille, and Lyon. They did lose. Lacazette doesn't score, but shout out to Carl Toko Ekambi, man. This guy just continues scoring for Lyon. And okay. Where does that leave the French league table then? PSG, surprise, surprise, in first place with a plus 10 goal difference. They have the same amount of points as Marseille, who are in second, but a plus 10 goal difference sees them take first place. Marseille in second, and then Lens in third, 2 points behind league leaders. Lorient in fourth, and Lyon in fifth. I'm kind of liking this top 5, honestly, other than, of course, PSG. But yeah, and then Monaco and Lille are kind of mid-table, and no surprises towards the bottom. Again, 4 relegation spots out of league this year. Stats-wise, like I mentioned, Neymar 8 goals and 6 assists. Messi with the most assists in the league with 7. Pretty standard names towards the top that you see, you would expect to see. Of course, with the passing of the Queen, which we spoke about last week, there was no Premier League action this week. Coming up this weekend, the 2 games that will not be played are the United Leeds match and the Chelsea Liverpool match. I believe those are the 2 that are postponed, which means those 2 teams will not, or those 4 teams rather, will not be playing until after the international break in the first week of October. Having said that, I'm just rambling on, basically trying to say we don't have any Premier League to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the European matches. Let's start in the Champions League, Michael. I guess we'll start over in Inter Milan then. It was a 2-0 win for them against Victoria Pilsen. Dzeko and Dumfries scoring. Was there anything that you saw in this match or anything you want to talk about? I remember Barella went down at one point acting like he got absolutely obliterated and then was up and happy a second later. But yeah.
I mean, it's Victoria Plens. If they didn't win this game, then it is what it is. So, I would say that it's an expected result for them. I don't. There's nothing really about this game that makes me go, wow.
Yeah. Okay, then moving on, we had Sporting Portugal beat Tottenham 2-0, and it was left late, man. Paulinho and Arthur scoring in the 90th and 93rd minutes. This was a big one. I think Marcus Edwards is special, by the way. He looks really good over at Sporting Portugal, so he is one to watch. Marcus Edwards, he had a really good solo run during the game that he could have scored, but he ended up I think Lloris made a good save on that. So two really good, well, not two really good, I think it's the second goal that was good that I enjoyed, but Sporting definitely deserved all 3 points. Any thoughts on Tottenham, Mykal, or should I move on?
This was a good game. This was a back and forth game. Like, this was a pretty even match. This is the one that I watched, obviously, having a soft spot for Spurs, but Sporting played like this was a level match, and Sporting is a tough team to play against, period. But then going on the road to Lisbon is it's a hard environment to play in. That's a passionate fan base and a loud fan base. And Spurs did not look as good as I thought they were going to. This was definitely a 50-50 game, and you could tell by halftime that this was going to be anybody's game and that one goal was going to change this game. And then sure enough, I don't know if Spurs switched off or what, but Paulinho scoring off of the set piece, and then that Gomes goal, by the way, he shredded. I mean, blew past Romero, danced around who was it, Dyer or Davies, and then just slotted it home around Lloris. That was a beautiful solo goal. And I think at that point Spurs were already turned off, so I don't want to take anything away from him, but I don't really know if that goal had a whole lot to add to the game. But that was a really good, really fun game to watch.
It was. And Marcus
2-0 is probably, Marcus Edwards is a real deal, by the way, and I think he'll be in the Premier League next year. I know that he only just joined Sporting this year, but I think this is going to be the type of year and the type of performances that'll be able to get him into the Premier League, probably with a side. You won't probably see him in the top side, but I wouldn't be surprised you see him linked with teams like West Ham or something like that. So.
Moving on, then we got Liverpool beating Ajax 2-1 in Anfield. Mohamed Salah scores a goal, and then Joel Matip leaving it late, but that was a very passionate winner that he scored in the 89th minute. My main takeaway from this was Mohamed Kudus, man. This guy for Ajax looks very nice. Mohamed Kudus scored earlier in the Champions League campaign for Ajax in the first game, scores again here, but Liverpool find a way to get all 3 points. I mean, I think they were close to a pretty full-strength lineup here. So they started with Diaz, Jota, and Salah up front, Thiago, Alcantara, Fabinho, and Harvey Elliott in midfield with Matip, Van Dijk, Trent, and Tsimikas. It was close to a healthy Liverpool, and we saw kind of what we expected from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Mohamed Salah to. I think this is this second goal of the season, third goal of the season?
Yeah, something like that.
And I mean, it was good finish from him. So it wasn't like a tap in like he had against Man United. So the interesting thing for me is that with Thiago back in the lineup, we still saw Harvey Elliott start.
Yeah.
I could have swore that it would have been Fabinho and probably Henderson with Thiago in a more attacking role, to where this game we see Harvey Elliott still sticking with him. So I think Klopp must really like something he's seeing out of him. For me, he hasn't really been it yet, but
and I think Harvey Elliott is someone who has a lot of self-belief. From what I remember, he said something along the lines of, I'm going to score 15 goals this whole season. So he has set the standard high for himself as well. And obviously Klopp wants to develop him. So, okay, next we then have Gibbert. I don't particularly care for him either, Gibbert, but whatever. Bayern Munich then beats Barcelona 2-0. I thought, to be fair, Barcelona played pretty well this game, but Bayern were just clinical. Lucas Hernandez with a good goal. Leroy Sané's run was phenomenal, and a very composed finish as well. Neuer made a couple of good saves. I think if Lewandowski was
he almost gave away a couple as well.
with his eccentricity. I think as a Canadian, I was getting memed a little bit with the Alphonso Davies penalty call potentially, where I did think it could have been a penalty, but it was one of the, I do think, I'll go on the record and say I do think it could have been a penalty. But Bayern killed the game off with two clinical finishes and in close proximity to each other with 50 and 54th minute. And again, Lewandowski's finishing, if this was on another day, I feel like it might have been a different story. Would you agree with Would you agree with the way I see that game?
Yeah, honestly, I think the 2-0 result was flattering for Bayern. I think that this easily could have been a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 draw. I would say that, like at the end of the day, this is a win that you want to get. Lewandowski was probably unlucky to score some. Neuer came up big in spots that he needed to, but he also almost gave away one. Like he was trying to make a pass to Upamecano, and he literally passed it right to, I think it was Rafinha, if I remember right. So Dembele looked really, really good for Barcelona. I was really terrified of him.
Yeah, Dembele's a bright player.
Him running down the wing at when they swapped him from left to right, or excuse me, from right to left, and and Rafinha was running at Davies now, and then you had Dembele running at Pavard. That really scared the shit out of me. I was not happy with that, and I thought that was going to be where they really took advantage of him, and then Pavard had to come off early. So, and I'm not really convinced Mazraoui going to be good enough defensively yet. I think he's more of an offensive-minded player. So I'm really going to need to see what happens with him. So, but I think it's a flattering result. But at the end of the day, it's 3 points against a hard team to play in Barcelona, and I think it's going to be probably a little bit harder result to get in the Spotify Stadium. So but Leroy Sané looked really, really good. I was really happy with him. He's been balling out for us recently. So this was one of those where I talked to you about, like, I'm not really sure what our pure attacking formation is going to look like. This is the first time where we saw Sadio Mane played in a more wide role like he was at Liverpool. And we saw Thomas Muller was playing at number 9, which I mentioned at the beginning of the year. He does have the capability to do so. He's not naturally there, but he does have that false 9 kind of Bobby Firmino ability. So, and I actually thought he looked really good there. I thought we were unlucky to score a couple of goals as well. That first half was really back and forth. So both Ter Stegen and Neuer really kind of showing that they both want to be that number 1 for Germany. And I think this was a good game for them to do it. So,
yeah.
But this was taking the fact that I'm a Bayern fan out of this was a really, really exciting game to watch.
It was very much. Moving forward then, Club Bruges with a nice 4-0, a huge 4-0 win over Porto. And this one was very interesting because it was in Portugal as well, in Porto's home. I was a little disappointed. Neither of the two Canadians really featured into the game. Kyle Larin didn't even make an appearance off the bench, and Tejan Buchanan, the other Canadian at Bruges, is injured. So no Canadians there, but still a 4-0 win. Skov Olsen scoring, and then a penalty as well for Bruges. I think Porto was just poor, and Bruges took the game to them.
Yeah, and it's annoying because I thought Porto could have made it out of this group, to be honest with you. But Bruges, shout out to Bruges, because some of the players that they lost this transfer window to, like Ketelaere, I thought was going to be a huge detriment to their success. But they balled out. Skov Olsen is getting back into the form that we all kind of thought he would. So that was a really, really exciting game. And did you mention the Leverkusen Atletico Madrid performance?
I have not yet. No, I'm not there yet. But I just want to mention one comment here from CS Gannon in chat. Porto's last 11 matches at home were 11 wins, a 38-4 goal difference, and then Bruges came in and smacked them 4-0. The next one on my docket here was Eintracht Frankfurt with a scrappy 1-0 against Marseille. Atmosphere, tension. These two supporter groups are known for what they bring. Very, very intense atmosphere. I don't know if you guys saw the Marseille fans lighting fireworks at the away fans of Frankfurt, which I thought was really shitty, if I'm honest with you, because that's just obnoxious in my opinion. But anyways, elite atmosphere from both fans, and I've been to a PSG Marseille game this past summer in PSG, and the Marseille fans are banned for 7 years because of their violent conduct. So
Marseille fans are nuts, dude.
They are, dude.
You want to talk about, they're probably in the top 5, I would say, leagues. They're one of the most I don't want to say passionate, but risque fan bases.
100%.
They're very, I don't want to say edgy, because that comes off as they're definitely passionate, and they're almost blindly passionate in terms of what they will do to other fans.
100%.
It reminds me of old school England fans where they would beat each other up in the street. Yeah,
the H word. Olympic Links in chat says that's just French football fans. They're crazy when their team is losing. Young Gibbert says flares and fires in every stadium are very fun.
Dude, when Portland, when we were in the Champions League here,
Yeah.
we hosted Club America
Yeah.
in Portland.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know about Mexican soccer, Club America being one of the biggest clubs I think they're actually the biggest club in Mexico in terms of popularity, but also one of the biggest. They are technically one of the biggest clubs in the world in terms of fan bases, which is crazy for me to think about. But when we hosted them, there was so many Club America fans, but we have a little away section up in the top right hand corner of our stadium. They lit so many flares and fireworks that you literally couldn't see a person. It was just a big. It was like somebody was flashing like a light just in this corner, in like a whole section.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's just so much smoke because the way our stadium is built is to put all the noise and stuff back onto the field to like create that atmosphere. And so the smoke is just piling onto the field and over and over and over again. So
crazy.
When you get flares like that and stuff, it is really exciting for the atmosphere, but it can also change it for everybody and maybe not for good.
Yeah. Intense indeed. Leverkusen, let's get to it. Shout out to Dark Raiden. He's usually a very frequent member of the chat. I'm not sure if he's watching or not, but finally something to celebrate for Dark Raiden, who watches almost every Leverkusen game. 2-0 against Atletico Madrid, man. Andrić and Diaby, 84th and 87th. Unfortunately, I was not watching this game. I was getting live updates from Dark Raiden in the Discord. I was watching Bayern Barcelona at the time, but Leverkusen, man, they get a good win.
Yeah, I'm just reacting to something somebody in chat said. And
yeah, no problem. I'll move on. Or do you want to go?
No, Diaby looked great this game. By the way, this game was all Diaby. Like he scored one. I think he actually got the assist on the other one. He was dancing all over Atletico Madrid. It was really, really exciting watching him play. And he's somebody that I would keep an eye on. That's probably not going to stay at Leverkusen at the end of the season.
Then we had Shakhtar and Celtic 1-1. Again, shout out to any Ukrainian team participating in footballing activities, given what they're going through. A huge point for them. I would say Shakhtar is, of course, a great team, but with all this craziness going on that we just seem to take for granted, shout out to them for putting up a good performance. Then we get to Group E, which is, of course, a group that is close to my heart, because for those of you that don't know, I am a Chelsea supporter. Milan doing what Chelsea couldn't and beating Zagreb 3-1. Zagreb, man, Orsic again on the score sheet for them, but Giroud scores, Salamaker scores a nice goal. He had a good chance earlier in the game too to score a banger, and Pobega scored a very nicely placed finish into the top corner. Milan looked good.
Yeah, this was the kind of expectation you got from Milan against a team like this. You know, this is the kind of result we thought we would get from Chelsea against a team like this. So, which, by the way, Dynamo sits second on the group because of their result over Chelsea. So, but you know, type of performance you expect from them. They limited Dynamo to only 3 chances, and they came out and played the same way that they were going to play against Chelsea, where they just kind of bunkered in and kind of played counterattack. But AC Milan was a lot more clinical with their finishing, as you said. Olivier Giroud and the combination of Brahim Diaz and Rafael Leao is just too much for a team like that to handle right now.
100%. And good point from Gibbert. There is no place in the modern world or any world for some of the gestures that were being made by Zagreb fans. So yes, please.
That's one of those things that they're a big club, but their fan base has been ruled in controversy for a long time with a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to me when players opt to go to a team like that, knowing that there's those kind of circulations about it. So
very,
exactly. very, very interesting.
Yeah. Moving on then, Napoli with a nice 3-0 win away. It's always crazy playing at the Ibrox, but Rangers held to no goals. Politano, Raspadori, and then Tanguy and Ndombele scoring. Napoli looked good. 25 shots, 10 of them on target. Really good win for Napoli. They seem, like I said, they haven't really played anyone of note in Serie A, of course, and the Milan game will be somewhat of a test, even though they're missing Leao. But Napoli are juggling Europe and domestic football pretty well, so let's see. Moving on then
it is worth of noting that game was pretty even until the red card.
Yes, in the 50 something minute.
Same kind of thing when Celtic was playing Madrid, whereas it was a pretty even contest. Like Rangers were giving Napoli the business for a good portion of that game, and then they get a red card, which again, a deserved red card, but then that changes the game and Napoli's able to take advantage. So I think that's what you need to do in that situation, though, when you're on the road in a game like this,
Mhm.
in a hostile environment, because it's not easy to go to Rangers and play there. So,
Mhm.
you know, again, I don't want to say that they're deserving of it yet, because again, you can only beat what's in front of you, but they are getting points when they need to. So
100%. Olympic Links in chat says here, speaking of Milan, sorry, the game before this Napoli one we talked about. Yeah, he says, I'm excited to see what Schalke Academy grad Malik Thiaw does at AC Milan. He's only been on the bench twice since moving 70 days ago, but bright future. And then said Mykal will probably know about Thiaw. He made his Schalke debut at 19, so one to watch there. For
I don't think he's probably going to get a ton of time this season. He'll probably play some garbage minutes against garbage teams, but he does have a bright potential, a really good future for him. And then going to a team of AC Milan's quality will probably help him. But
yeah, and
I don't think he'll make a name for himself this season. Probably next season.
And then talking about the Napoli Rangers game, Young Gibbard in chat says Rangers fans tried to fight a Napoli player doing warm down. Interesting. Okay. Moving on then to the Chelsea match. I will speak on this obviously because I'm a Chelsea supporter, have been for 14-15 years. I've watched every game that I can remember.
Here we go.
It's not going to be bad. I'm going to be quick. I'm going to be short. Honestly, I don't have a lot to say. I'm happy. It was a shitty point. It was shitty to drop 2 points for sure. But it was Graham Potter's first game in charge after 1 week with the team, and already you could see the difference. The mentality was better. The reaction to conceding that goal in the 75th minute was better. It was a mistake, in my opinion.
The lineup was better.
The lineup was. Okay, so initially when I saw it, I got really mad because I got mad that Azpilicueta, Silva, and Cucurella were playing when Sesko got put in. Sesko, I guess, was a last minute introduction because their main striker that they were going to play got injured, but that is like a 6'4" giant against not really the tallest back line. So I thought one of Koulibaly or Fofana should have started. Having said that, I am at ease. There's so much noise around Chelsea, and I am actually at ease with what's happening because I think that if there is a clear plan in place from ownership, this is not Roman. Everyone says that Chelsea managers don't last, this, that, the other. When Todd Boehly purchased a multi-billion-dollar asset and inherited a manager who didn't want to fulfill the same vision as him from what we are told, I'm fine with the decision that was made, even though it hurts, okay? So, good reaction from Chelsea. The problem still persists. Finishing is not there. I am saying this for the 50th time, and Michael, I texted you this on your cell phone. I said, Armando Broja needs to start every single game that he can. He changes the game when he comes on. He presses opposition into mistakes. He hasn't had a goal yet because he's not played consistently, but his energy is just, you can't ignore this anymore. And so for me, that's
go ahead.
That's it. I really, really will be devastated if we don't give Broja the chance to develop because he is a very exciting player that just has that extra mentality. But yeah, overall, I think promising signs, frustrating 2 points. Thiago Silva went to ground. I still think if he stayed up, that cross may not have been delivered as perfectly as it was. Michelle and I disagreed on this. Michelle felt like Thiago couldn't do much other than do that, but I still think he committed by going to the ground. I think he could have shaded him a little towards the sideline, and then if the cross goes in, at least you stayed on your feet. So
I think a player of Thiago's quality, if you're going to go to ground there, you need to get that ball out. You cannot leave it into a position where he can run back onto the ball.
Yeah.
I agree that I don't think there was a whole lot else he could have done. So I agree. I guess Michelle, that was Michelle's point. You're saying? I don't think he could have done much else. I think the only other option he had there was either he goes to ground, and if he does go to ground, he needs to win that ball out.
Yeah.
Or you just need to try and go physical with him and either commit the foul. Yeah, or
that's what I was hoping for a little bit.
Or try. I think he probably should have been physical, especially given the size comparison. I think he should have just been just shoulder him, and if he goes down, you can see the foul, but you get the chance to put players behind ball. So
100%.
I expected Thiago to have a little bit better judgment there. I agree that maybe he shouldn't have gone to ground, but if he is going to go to ground, he does need to win that ball cleanly or just take the player. So it's interesting, but I respect it. It was a very dominant performance until one lapse of judgment from an experienced player, and that shit's going to happen. Like, you can't really blame the head coach on that. You can't, blame the system or anything like that. Like, Salzburg took advantage of a mistake, and that's what good teams do, is they take advantage of mistakes and they capitalize on it, right? So, like, yes, it's a 1-1 result. and you're at home, so you got to play a little bit better. But your coach has had 1 week with the team. He doesn't really know what he wants to do with them long term. Or I mean, he probably has an idea what he wants to do with them long term. But
he went with experience for this match, exactly.
Yeah. His first game in charge is a European game, so
his first Champions League
he's going against a team that he doesn't even really know a whole lot of yet.
100%.
This is his first major game, or his first European game. So, I think he did well. I think the team did well, and I think he relied, like you said, on experience and tried to help him. And Aubameyang's been hot shit. Like, terrible. He's been garbage for you guys.
He's also. I did keep in mind that's something that changed my mind. He is supposedly playing through a lot of pain, which doesn't really give him an excuse. But yeah, I expected. I think he's mentally checked out. Why would he care? He came here for Tuchel, and Tuchel's gone.
I agree with you, though. In my opinion, what I think what we'll see from Graham Potter long term is, we know that he's a 5 at the back, or if you want to call it a 3-5-2 with defensive wingers. For me, it's a 5 at the back. I think we'll see Cucurella at left wing back. I think we'll see Koulibaly.
Which, by the way, can we just put some respect on Cuckoo's name, please? He's been pretty good for us, man. I know a lot of people are saying he hasn't done much, but Cucumber, yeah. When you watch 90 minutes consistently, he's been good. I will stand by that. He's been great.
I disagree.
If you actually watch 90 minutes,
now, I've watched 90 minutes with you. I disagree. I disagree. Okay. I think he's been better.
Chat, what do you guys think? I'd love to hear what you think as well about Cucurella.
I will say I think Cucumber is going to be better now that Graham Potter's back there. I think we'll get to see more of him. And he's going to understand the mission now that Graham Potter's back in charge. So
100%. I'm just excited that potentially Chelsea has a freaking project for once to build an identity, which is the words I've been saying to you since the start of this whole thing, man. Chelsea is clueless. They have no identity and haven't had for a long time.
So I think we'll see Cucumber and Reece James at the wingback positions.
By the way, can I just sorry, I hate to cut you off, but I just want to say this one thing. We cannot rely on Reece James being our only offensive outlet. Please, this is getting ridiculous. Now, if he goes down injured, God forbid, Chelsea's done. That's all it is. The right flank. That's it. Sorry, go ahead.
You could. I think we'll see Thiago Silva, Azpilicueta, and Koulibaly at the back. We're already seeing that Kepa's preferred over Mendy by Potter, so I'm wondering if we're going to see Kepa actually earn his number 1 spot back. I think he's the better of the two keepers.
Me too. Maturing is realizing Kepa is better than Mendy.
I think you're still missing Conte in the midfield. I think that's still a gapping hole.
Kovacic,
it sucks that I don't think you'll ever recover from not having Conte unless you guys are going to have to figure something else out. Because, and I told you this before, that I think Conte played a role of 2 players for Chelsea, and now you're realizing that, and you're having to figure out what you're going to do with that position now. So, I think that's a position that probably needs to be filled for you guys either in the winter window or next season. But I think we'll see that back line, so a 5-man back line. I think we'll see probably Aubameyang and Broha at striker. So a 2-man up front, and then I think we'll see probably Sterling and Havertz in he's either probably going to go 5-2-1-2 or probably like a 5-3-2 with 2 wide players and then 2 strikers. So but I do think Broha is Graham Potter's focus, because they were already talking to Potter. They were already talking to Potter about coming in before they sacked Tuchel, and Broha was apparently one of the players that he wanted to develop and bring into the system, and that's apparently what kicked off his 5-year extension. I don't know enough to know if that's true or not, but that's some of the things that I read. So
I'm going to believe it's true
if that goes through.
I'm going to believe it's true.
I think actually Broha and Aubameyang up front makes Aubameyang look better, and I think it opens up Broha to be a little bit more physical. So I think you get a physical, more space-consuming, striker, and then Aubameyang can stretch his legs out a little bit, which is what he's been known for. That also frees up Sterling to be a little bit more crafty like he is and not be so much of a striker. And then you also get Havertz back into his natural position to be a little bit more central. So, it'll be very interesting. I think we're going to see 5 at the back from him, though, which does mean that you're going to lose some of the midfield presence. So I think for me, that probably means that, in my opinion, Jorginho's out. And then you'll probably see Mason Mount or Gallagher next to Kovacic. So I think those are the 2 players that you rotate in and out. But
Hot take, I think Mount's better as a deep midfielder. He was actually much better playing deeper last game than he was. Anyways, okay, we've spent enough time on this. Always so much to talk about, but we'll move on then because we are getting threatened with an unfollow here from our Israeli friend. We'll get there, don't worry. They're lower on the list here, the Haifa game, but we will get there, my friend. Leipzig fall to Madrid 2-0. I think I alluded to this earlier. Late goals from Madrid to take all 3 points. Valverde and Asensio. Pretty late goals, but they find a way, man. They always find a way.
Yeah, and that's the one good coaching from Ancelotti to make some of the adjustments that he needed to make. Credit to Leipzig. Leipzig, kept their nose in this game. Like they were never falling out. But I think that this is again another one where you're kind of questioning where the defensive pairing comes in. Like Rudiger's been a stud at the back for him, but this time they paired him with Nacho and they moved David Alaba out left. So I still think he's trying to figure out what they're going to do there. But the midfield, though, the starting trio of Modric, Tchouaméni, and Camavinga for me is just is chef's kiss.
100%.
That midfield three is just crazy. And then you can tell this is a game though where you can tell they're missing Benzema. They still get a win, they still get it done, but this is a game where the quality of Benzema would have been a huge help.
Yeah, 100%. Do we have news on how long he's out? Like, is it serious?
They still haven't said. I think they're purposely keeping it hush hush because they haven't said.
Yeah.
He hasn't had surgery or anything, so it's not like a huge detriment. But I think that. Oh, I just got a pop up here. This is interesting. Sorry, but I think that they're keeping it hush hush on purpose to keep some of the things noted. I just got a pop up from ESPN. Apparently, United have found a potential out for Cristiano Ronaldo at rumored to be 100 million euros.
Or where?
100 pounds. 100 million pounds. It doesn't say.
To Greece, Olympiacos.
Imagine. That club doesn't have 100 million pounds.
I know. Yeah, anyways, I was going to make a comment, but I'd probably get blacklisted for that. Anyways, Copenhagen and Sevilla. What? Did you find anything?
No teams have been officially announced, but one of the rumored teams is Newcastle United.
But they can't do shit till January. I'm confused.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's for January.
I see.
January exit.
I see. Moving on then, Copenhagen and Sevilla 0-0. Okay. That was,
Sevilla doesn't deserve to be in the Champions League this year. They're not even they're going to get eliminated probably first round of the Europa League. Actually, they probably won't even go to Europa League. I think they'll finish fourth in this group. I think Copenhagen's going to be the one that gets bounced to Europa League.
Interesting. And then we have Benfica. Benfica, they look good, man.
Speaking of Europa League, by the way, I'm probably going to have to change my prediction for winners of Europa League now that you guys are going to get bounced to the Europa League.
Yeah, facts. There's still time. Ouch, you're writing us off already. I love it. As a Chelsea fan, nothing feeds me more than having people shit talk the team the entire year. It makes me so happy. All right, Benfica 2, Juventus 1. Milik scores early. This time it counted, unlike his domestic goal. But Jean Mario with a penalty, and then David Neres, who has been so good at Benfica.
Yeah. This was the late game I watched, and this was a phenomenal game. And I will say, other than when Milik scored in the 4th minute, from that moment on, Juve never looked like they were going to win this game.
Yeah.
This looked like Benfica through and through.
Yeah, 100%.
And Benfica is a scary good team. Neres, by the way, is a player that a lot of people are going to forget about because he left Ajax, but God, is he a stud.
See, I'm lucky. In Canada, when I subscribe for the Premier League package, I get Portuguese League as well. So I'm actually getting to watch Benfica, and he is so silky on the ball. David Neres, phenomenal, guys. Good shout, Michael. Don't forget about this guy, man.
Gonçalo Ramos, by the way. I'm probably butchering that because I don't speak Portuguese at all. But everyone was like, oh, Benfica's done. They lost Darwin Nunez. He's, blah, 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 blah. No, this kid's shown up and he's been like, hold my beer. Nunez, who, he has been a stud up front for them. The combination of Neres and Rafa. Rafa's going to play a little bit more centrally, by the way, in this new system. So for me, they're still susceptible defensively. But and again, Juve doesn't look like hot shit, and we've talked about that. But Benfica, we wrote, both you and I wrote them off when they drew PSG and Juve in the same group. I think we both wrote them to being bounced to Europa League, and it was a huge result for them at home.
I'm sorry,
on the road.
Yeah. Stefan in chat says Enzo Fernandez is the superstar for Benfica now. He's that Argentinian midfielder. Yeah, good shouts. They have a good team, man. Really good team. Moving on then.
And he probably won't even make the Argentinian national team for the World Cup.
I think he's only 21 still, which is crazy to think he'll get there eventually. But all right, Gannon, here you go. Open up your ears. Haifa 1, PSG 0. Until the 37th minute. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Jaron Cherry, man, 24th minute goal. Absolutely blew the lid off the stadium in Israel. Like I said, there is someone in our community. His name is Redhead Kid YouTube. I think is his username on Twitch. He is the other Israeli Gannon. Cherry, number 10 for Haifa, playing like a number 10 with that goal. Messi scored in the 37th, Mbappe, and then Neymar finished off the scoring. But I think Redhead Kid summed it up nicely on the Discord. He said it was fun while it lasted, a night that I'll never forget. Getting to obviously see Haifa take the lead, but also watching Messi live in the flesh, man. That is a generational thing right there. What were your thoughts on this, Michael? Did you have a chance to take in the hype with Haifa?
I watched some of the highlights because it came like this was one of those games where like as soon as Haifa scored and we're 1-0 over PSG, like I think every broadcast was like showing those highlights. So it was very, very interesting. The goal was really, really good, but then it kind of fell to what you expected it to be, and PSG's front three of Mbappe, Neymar, Messi. It's just kind of it's too much for a lot of teams to deal with. And Haifa came out in a hard back five. By the way, there was no wing backs here. They had a 5-man back line the entire game. So.
Agreed with I also want to say this. I did because I watched this game a little closely because I know Redhead Kid. So I had some interest in it. Like Gannon and Stefan said, the first half actually PSG were lucky not to go 2-0 down. No. It was very one-sided. Even
Donnarumma made some huge saves.
And Haifa did not get rolled over, even though the scoreline suggests 3-1 at the end of it. Haifa played well. They actually only had 3 less total shots than PSG, which is crazy to think about as well.
A lot of people, by the way, have been disrespecting Donnarumma, and I think
me.
Even you, I
don't like the guy. He's corny as hell, man. He's a good goalie, but
he's probably one of the best keepers in the world right now.
Sure.
Like, I honestly, I think he needs to be in the conversation of best keepers in the world.
Yeah.
So the saves that he makes, his distribution, and the fact that he's under 25 years old, I mean, it's got to be in the conversation. So yes, he's a rat, and he left his boyhood club, and he did it in a really shitty way. But at the same time,
like I said, for me, the thing with Donnarumma is he is a good goalie, but I'm gonna say this, and I'll get ripped apart. I don't care. I think he's just huge. He has a strong wrist and he's tall and he gets to balls really well, but it works and that's fine.
Reaction times, right?
Exactly, 100%. But I just
also he's got great distribution.
Yeah.
Except he won a Euro Cup for Italy. So I mean.
Anyways, let's move on then to Jude Bellingham scoring in the 56th minute, and Dortmund was beating City. Everyone was wondering, when is he going to score? When is he going to score? Is he going to score? Is he going to score? Stones with an absolute worldie, by the way, in the 80th minute. General John Stones. I liked it as a center back. I like it, man. It's deadlocked. You're trying to get a goal. They only had 3 shots on target, and that's one of them. To me, that's a banger.
I mean, fair play because it went in, but it's not that good of a shot. Like the keeper should have done better there. And remember, how many times have I told you that Dortmund's keeper is hot fucking dog shit?
That's true. Yeah.
How many times have I told you that their keepers are fucking absolute baby doo-doo? And if you go back and you look at that shot from John Stones from the TV angle, like the TV broadcast angle, it looks amazing. It looks like a worldie. And yes, he did well to hit it with pace. He hit it on target, and I want to give him credit. But he also hit it right at the keeper, and it went over his head. Like any other keeper in the world, if you shoot that at Ederson, Donnarumma, Neuer, even fucking Edouard Mendy, if you shoot that at him, that's a save. So, like, that was a terrible, terrible goal to let in as a keeper.
Yeah.
But yes, he did score it, and that does change the game because Dortmund, to me, were in a good position to win up to that point. But
and then Haaland with the 84th minute, man, the inevitable. And I like how the city players just crowded him, so he didn't have to deal with celebrating or not celebrating, even though it looked like he was, just walking away. But credit to City.
So he held up. He held it up, and he looked over to the Dortmund fans and was like, and
then João Cancelo was just screaming. If you guys have seen that video, Haaland's just walking.
That assist.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
The only thing better than better than the assist was the goal. Like that assist outside the boot with his weak foot, curled it in on a dime in front of behind the center back, in front of the keeper. Like, what? And he's a fullback. Fuck me, man. Like, you shouldn't be able to do that as a fullback. Like,
I think they have the best fullback in the world. Yeah. Fullbacks in the world, in my opinion.
It's so annoying, that Man City team. Like, every single position on the field has that type of quality. Like, fuck me, man. How do you defend that for 90 minutes?
Yeah. In the Discord, someone did ask about the goal from Haaland, whether it was controversial or not with the high boot. Again, like I said earlier, with the Leao red card we talked about, I'm all for players going for those kind of balls for finishes. But yeah, it was of course a high boot, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was like, if he makes contact with the keeper, it's a red card and he's off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because there was no contact with anybody and he scores it, then it goes in. Zlatan used to do the same shit. You know how many times Zlatan scored like those karate kicks? You know, but if he makes contact with a player, it's an automatic foul, and you're looking at a red card. But if he makes contact with the ball and it goes in, then no one cares. So
100%.
He had to have scored against Dortmund, though. You know what I mean? Like, and imagine when he goes to Dortmund.
Yeah.
If I'm Pep, by the way, I almost bench him for that game. Like,
did you see his post-game interview when he gave attitude? It was with John Stones. I almost always say John Snow, by the way. Anyways, John Stones and him were standing, and I think the journalist was like, "Oh, Erling, Dortmund said they knew how to keep you quiet, and they did." And Haaland was, you could see him get pissed off with that question. He was like, "Well, they didn't, because I scored." It's so funny. It's just the most Haaland thing ever, man. But anyways,
and he almost scored a bunch too. By the way, he had like 3 or 4 shots on target that were like, I think Dortmund did really well. I think they could have gotten a result here, and then they're a little unlucky. I think once they conceded the first goal, you're then kind of, in that environment, the Etihad, changes from, being completely silent where you can only hear the Dortmund fans, and then all of a sudden, you give them something to make noise for. So
yeah. Having said that, guys, let's wrap up then with Champions League group stages and how it looks after 2 games played. Group A has Napoli in first on 6 points, Liverpool in second on third. Second with 3 points, Ajax in third with 3 points as well. Rangers pointless after 2 games. Group B sees Bruges in first place with 6 points, Leverkusen and Madrid, Atletico Madrid, that is, both on 3 points, and Porto on 0. Group C has Bayern on 6, Barcelona on 3, Inter on 3. Barcelona ahead with +2 goal difference over Inter, and then Victoria Pilsen sit at the bottom without points.
Dude, whoever bounces out of the Europa League in our group, by the way, Bayern, Inter, and Barcelona, like, dude, rest in peace, Europa League.
Group D then,
and then they also got to play Chelsea too. Like, good lord.
Yeah, no, again, keep feeding me. Group D, Sporting sit atop on 6 points, Tottenham on 3 in second, Eintracht Frankfurt in third, and Marseille without a point. Tough. Group E, Milan sit atop, Zagreb third, Zagreb second, Salzburg third, Chelsea fourth. No surprises here. I've already talked about this. Just feed me more, please. Real Madrid 6 points in Group F, Shakhtar in second on 4, which is huge actually. Celtic with a point in third, and Leipzig pointless in that one. Group G,
I feel like we didn't do any respect to Shakhtar, by the way, because a result against Celtic is a good one, and that's huge. That Mudryk guy, by the way, has been balling for Shakhtar.
Yeah,
and he was talking about how he wants to move to Arsenal and everything, so it'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But he's been doing really, really well.
100%. Group G then sees Sevilla dead last with a point, Copenhagen right above them in third, also on a point, Dortmund in second place, and Man City in first. And then Group H has Benfica and PSG on 6 points and even goal difference, so that's a cool one. Juventus and Haifa both pointless. Hopefully Haifa can squeak in and Juventus finishes fourth. Wouldn't that be sweet? Just a comment here from Young Gibbert in chat. Most of Europa League teams that will go through would beat Juventus. I can't really argue that. Also, Olympic Links says if groups stay the same, Europa League has like 17 teams that could quite easily make the final or win it. Unbelievable times in Europe. Speaking of the Europa League, then, let's just touch on a couple of big results, I think, from match day number 2 in Europa League. Sociedad with a 2-1 victory over Omonia. Olympiacos lose 3-0 to Freiburg. That's got to be upsetting for Olympiacos. We know how much work they're putting in to try and get their season in Europe well up and running. United beat Sheriff 2-0. Feyenoord smoked Sturm Graz 6-0. Ferencváros, shout out to them, from, I think it's Hungary, forgive me if I'm wrong, but they beat Monaco 1-0 in Monaco. Karabag from Azerbaijan beat Nantes 3-0. Turkish champions Trabzonspor beat Crvena Zvezda. That is a tough one. 2-1. Midtjylland beating Lazio 5-1. That was a big one. Rennes and Fenerbahce 2-2. Bodo Glimt beats Zurich 2-1. Roma wins 3-0. Great Roma kits, by the way. Michael shared that earlier today, and their holographic logo is insane. And then, Kiev loses to Larnaca. That's a tough one. Ludogorets and Betis in a 5-goal thriller that Betis wins 3-2. Union Saint-Gilloise from Belgium beat Malmo 3-2, and then Braga beat Union Berlin 1-0. Sorry, that was long, but that's all the results in the Europa League. Was there anything that stood out to you, brother? Anything you want to talk about?
Union Berlin losing to Braga was kind of rough. I think that was the one that's going to really set the pace for their tournament. They're now sitting in third in that group. St. Illinois, by the way, is shocked that group and is tied for first on 6 points after they beat Malmo, which is a little bit more of an expected result for them. But Union Berlin's struggling in Europe, man. And I'm wondering, that's why I'm starting to wonder if their Cinderella story in the Bundesliga is going to start coming to a close here, because they're going to start getting some tough results and some tough scheduling coming up. So, and with the international break coming up as well, they do have the benefit where a lot of their players aren't going to international teams, but I think their storybook's coming to an end. And then Lazio losing to Midtjylland today in an embarrassing 5-1 loss. Midtjylland looked the dominant side the entire game. We talked about it earlier this year that Lazio is one of those teams where like nobody really knows how good they're going to be. They just kind of always are hanging in there, and then they have a performance like this. And then Nantes out of Ligue 1 struggling in the league and now losing 3-0 to a what did you say? Karabakh from
Azerbaijan.
So that's going to be an interesting group to keep an eye on, because now Freiburg's on 6 points, Olympiacos is in last on no points, Nantes on 3, and Karabakh on 3 as well. So a very interesting group there. The rest of the results, not really any big surprising ones outside of those to me.
I just want to touch on one thing before I forget. Stefan in chat here says, shout out to Joaquin for Real Betis, who scores at 41 years old, is the oldest European goal scorer ever. Shout out to him. Joaquin Sanchez Rodriguez from Real Betis. That's a good shout there. But sorry, I wanted to ask you this because today, guys, I was on the Path to the Playoffs panel, so I did not have a chance to watch any matches today. I apologize. I can't really speak on these. If you watched or have a comment on the way United played, I would love to hear that, because we have a lot of United supporters in chat. Was it good Ten Hag ball? Was it cohesive? Was it nice? What was your thoughts on that?
That's the one game that I watched during the day today, and I was bouncing around a couple of different ones. But this game, for the most part, Pinaldo scored today on a penalty. Like they looked dangerous in some areas, but they also didn't in other areas. They're kind of unlucky to have scored probably 3 or 4 goals, but at the same time they're lucky that they didn't concede 1 or 2 goals. Sheriff looked dangerous in a couple different areas, but at the same time the quality of player just kind of caught up to him. But Sheriff took a ton of shots. Like they were not afraid to shoot and to threaten United. So very, very interesting game to watch. But at the end of the day, it just, United was just too much for Sheriff. But not something that as a United fan I'd be like thrilled about this result, because this is one that you're like, yeah, we beat Sheriff. Like this is an expected result. Like it is what it is. So it wasn't one I'd be super happy about, but they had a lot of positives, but also still some questionable areas as well that they need to fill in. So
100%.
We'll have to see.
Cool. Looking at the groups then in Europa, Group A has Bodo Glimt sitting atop with 4 points. Arsenal, I think, wait, are Arsenal playing? Okay, so what's happening with these matches? Because
Arsenal didn't play because of like the London security or whatever.
Okay.
So I think they're playing I think they play 2 in 1 week or something weird like that. Yeah. I forget what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
I think their group won't be decided until like the weekend after the group stage or something, or the weekend after the knockout round. So, it's something weird. I forget what they said they're doing to make up this game. but it wasn't like a forfeiture or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, so then we'll kind of have that caveat for Group A, but currently Bodo Glimt sit atop on 4 points, Arsenal yet to play, PSV yet to play, and then Zurich at the bottom, pointless. Group B has Rennes in first, Fenerbahce in second, Larnaca in third, and then Dynamo Kiev, pointless at the bottom. Group C, Real Betis leads the way, Ludogorets in second because of that huge win against Roma last week, and then Roma sit in third place there. HJK in fourth. Group D has Braga in first, Union Saint-Gilloise in second, tied on 6 points. Union Berlin and Malmo pointless in that one. Sociedad leads the way in Group E. United and Sheriff both on 3 points follow closely. Omonia finishes at the bottom there after 2 games with 0 points. Group F has Feyenoord and Midtjylland, Lazio and Sturm Graz all on 3 points. Group F has everybody on 3 points, but the goal difference goes from +4 for the first place team to -5 for the fourth place team. Group G has Freiburg sitting atop. Freiburg having a nice start to the season domestically and in Europe. 6 points for them. Karabag in second, Nantes in third, and Olympiacos no points, but some big signings. Will Olympiacos turn it around with Marcelo, James, etc.? And then finally, Group H, a good group. Ferencvaros, though, lead the way with 6 points. Trabzonspor, the Turkish champions, on 3 points. Monaco on 3 as well. And then Crvena Zvezda finish the group pointless. So lots to still be decided, but interesting games shaping up. Looking at the Conference League, is there anything that stood out to you? Is there a result that you wanted to point out? Maybe the 3-2 for West Ham doesn't look very comfortable.
No, the 3-2 West Ham one was, I mean, they're in the road, so that, I give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. They looked susceptible defensively, which is something that we've talked about with them in the league.
Yeah.
But the one to me that why is this showing? That's weird that it's showing that. Was the one that stood out to me was Başakşehir 3-0 over Fiorentina was the one that really shocked me.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a ton of this football. I was just keeping an eye on some of the highlights throughout the day because I was watching the Europa League. But this result, as I was seeing this score come in, I was like, what the hell?
I did not know Bertrand Traore plays at Istanbul Başakşehir, by the way. Wow.
Yeah. Ozil's there, by the way, as well. So he got subbed on late and kind of helped through a couple things. But that game to me was a little bit surprising. The rest of the results, if I'm looking at them, Villarreal gets their game 2-1, Cologne 4-2 win, Basel's winning. A lot of expected results. Nothing here that makes me go, wow, holy shit. So this tournament doesn't really get super exciting until you get to the knockout rounds. The group stages are pretty much a formality, if you will.
100%.
Which I'm wondering how long the Conference League stays as is, because I don't know if it's going to bring in enough revenue for a lot of these teams to really make it worth it. You know what I mean? Like, you are seeing teams from smaller countries that are playing their first European tournament football, but is it really going to be worth it? Especially if they're playing the same day as Europa League and they're not going to be getting the same note of attention in the media. You think you think the Conference League survives past a couple more years?
I don't know. Like, it's an interesting concept, but I'm really not sure where football goes from here. And it's kind of sad to say that, because like it's becoming kind of ridiculous with how many games are being thrown in. And this kind of segues nicely into something we wanted to talk about, actually, because as we end the podcast here, of course, one of the big talking points in the world of football this week was what Todd Bowley said about a potential All-Star game. And people like Jurgen Klopp had a lot to say, where it's like, we already play so many games, and adding more games just kind of doesn't make sense. And I kind of agree. Even the fact that the World Cup is in...
Adding a game, by the way.
No, a game. But you know how, like, so in baseball, Vladdy Guerrero for the Blue Jays he decided, I'm not going to partake in the home run derby because my hand could get injured. So are people really going to take it seriously? Are they not? All-Star games are more just a spectacle. They're not really taken very seriously. Having said that, the idea of an elite North team versus an elite South team would be kind of juicy, I'm not going to lie. But will the players give it their all? Will they have anything to prove? That kind of thing remains to be seen. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think, sorry, to come back to your question about the Conference League, it's hard to tell. I think on paper it lasts because they want more football to be consumed, and it gives more money for broadcasting rights and stuff like that. But I mean, is it just going to get saturated down to where, like, no offense, but championship teams are playing in Europe? I don't know.
I think if you wanted to keep it a thing, you need to move it around. I think you need to like if Champions League was on Wednesday, so if you had Conference League Tuesday, Champions League Wednesday, and then Europa League Thursday, I think that makes more sense to me, because putting Conference League on the same day as either one, Champions League or Europa League, I think it ruins it, because like I said, the whole benefit of a lot of these teams getting into European competition is the money that it brings in the club, right?
Yeah.
But that money comes from TV revenue. Like, it doesn't come from hosting games. It doesn't come from traveling fans or bringing in an extra gate receipt from your home fans or anything like that. No, it comes from the TV rights.
Yeah.
But if you're stacking them on top of a tournament that's higher in terms of value, you're not like, I'm not tuning in to watch fucking like, I'm not like, I don't know what's some of these games like fucking Cluj-Napoca versus Sivasspor. Like, no disrespect to either one of those teams, but I'm not tuning in to watch that shit while like Man United's playing on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm not watching Ghent Shamrock Rovers when fucking West Ham are playing. Like, granted, West Ham are in the same fucking tournament, so maybe English fans are watching their one team, but that's one team. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like if you want this tournament to have more prestige and more longevity, I think they need to figure out a day where, like, if UEFA wants this to be a thing, they need to nail down that at the 3 days in the middle of the week that this is going to play.
Yeah,
so
100%. I can see that. Exactly. Willy Wonka in chat says, Djurgården, are you watching that game? Exactly. No offense, but like, when you have like United playing, you're gonna have your eyes on that instead. No offense at all meant, but yeah.
I think that also helps, because like, if you make it a consistent schedule, right? So that Conference League's Tuesday, that Champions League's Wednesday, that Europa League's Thursday. I think that one, TV wise, that makes a lot more sense, because now you have Champions League Wednesday. That's a thing. Now, you know what I mean? And it also, as a coach, if you look at that from a coaching standpoint, if you're in the Champions League, you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday in the Prem, one of those 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to prepare for a Wednesday day match.
100%.
Or a Wednesday match. So
yeah,
rather than, because right now what you're looking at is like there's I forget which Premier League team it is, but they have a Monday night game in the Premier League, and then they have a Tuesday night Champions League game on the road, by the way.
Unbelievable.
And that's because, one, the UEFA doesn't give a shit about what the FA does, and the FA doesn't give a shit about what UEFA does. Yeah. So I want to look. I got to remember to find what team it is that's doing that. But it's one of the Premier League teams that plays Monday Night Football in the Prem, and then they play Tuesday night Champions League match.
Yeah.
Like, how fair is that?
Scheduling nightmare. No, I totally agree. And especially like, now that we've seen something as crazy as the World Cup in winter, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. It's kind of scary to think about what commercializing this game is doing. But Willy Wonka has a great point. Wouldn't you want to see Djurgården and Mold? That's a phenomenal game.
Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like,
no.
There's probably fans
Cheeky
that like,
tongue.
Don't get me wrong. There's definitely some fans that want to watch this, but if you're looking at where you're going to capitalize on market value, it's not going to be when there's Europa Leagues or Champions League games playing at the same time.
100%.
Like, the majority of, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of, if I'm a fan of football, if you lay out 3 games for me to pick from, I'm not going to pick a Napoca Sivasspor or Djurgården Mold or Ghent Rovers or Punic Bratislava. I'm picking United Sheriff, or I'm picking fucking Sociedad and whoever. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Agreed.
clear.
I think Stefan summed it up well. Like, last year was an anomaly watching Mourinho take that Roma side to the final and win that. That's fine. But again, until it gets to the business end of things, like Stefan said, I don't think you necessarily pay attention when the matches are conflicting with the bigger European teams.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, nobody cares about until the knockout rounds. But that's bad for this tournament, though, right? Because like, even Europa League, people care about the group stages because like, like, you may not make out of it. Like, shit, United fans were worried that they weren't going to make it out of the group stages at the beginning of the year. So like, now like, if you're a Balkani team, you give a shit about your group stages? No, you probably don't want to be playing them in the first place, because some of these teams, by the way, they make these European tournaments knowing damn well that they're not going to fucking have a chance to do anything with them, and then they struggle in their league because of it.
Yeah, I agree.
So
cool.
The cost of doing business versus the benefit that they're going to get, to me, at some of these club levels, isn't worth it.
100%.
You know what I mean? especially when you're a club of, I don't know, say Sivasspor has to travel to wherever the fuck Napoco's playing. Now you all of a sudden have to book a flight out of country. You got to get your players on their visas again. You got to figure out it. I don't know. I don't know.
A lot of logistical nightmares.
I think the way it is now, I don't think Conference League makes it past 5 years. I don't. Okay. Unless they figure something out.
I can't really argue. Yeah.
They got to find another way to do it. As far as like what you were saying, though, the All-Star game, it's a game. Like if I could understand if you're adding a All-Star tournament or whatever, but it's a game, and do it at the end of the season. Do it after the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Champions League finals played midweek anyways.
Yeah.
So play it the weekend of the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if Man City's playing in the Champions League final, then yes, your player got selected to the All-Star team, but he doesn't play or he gets subbed on. Do it when they have all summer to rest up or recover from an injury that they're going to pick up in the All-Star. I think it doesn't do anything to the game. If anything, it helps the game. I don't see it. I hate the way MLS does it because we do our All-Star game mid-season. And that's fucking dumb, in my opinion. Because now we got to worry about if you get injured in this exhibition game, you could be out the rest of the year, and that's detrimental to your club. But if you do it as a Premier League side, you do it at the end of the season. You put it at take it to whoever won the Premier League. Add something add a benefit to it. You know what I mean? Like what Major League Baseball does in the States side. Whoever wins the All-Star game gets the home advantage for the final. So maybe whoever wins the All-Star game in for the Prem, like whether it's the North or South team, then maybe that determines who gets home advantage for the FA Cup
or something.
Something weird like that. Like I think there's ways that they could make it interesting. And again, if you do it at the end of the season, you eliminate the need for it to be for players to worry about injury and playing it soft. You're not really adding a game to the schedule that makes it different, and it brings in receipts. Plus, you get jerseys. Like the All-Star games here in the States sell a lot of the jerseys for
commercial revenue.
You know what I mean? So you get commercial revenue from the league. That money's going back to the league. I don't see there being a problem with it. I honestly don't.
I agree. I think it's this bias where Todd Bowley's an American who doesn't know what he's talking about. It's really funny. I saw a comment made about, so Gary Neville was ripping into Todd Bowley's ideologies and the way he wants to run a football club. And of course, Gary Neville was a very good player, I would say, but his managerial career was a bit of a meme at Valencia. And we all know how that turned out. And I read a comment that was really interesting. Do I want to trust Gary Neville, who had a failed managerial stint at Valencia and has done nothing since in the game since retiring? Or do I want to trust a multi-billion dollar successful sports team running businessman who has understood what it takes to run successful franchises across multiple sports? And okay, sure, he is American, but that doesn't mean anything. There are good ideas there if you actually approach it with an open mind. And I think, like I said, as a Chelsea fan, as much as we get memed, I'm honestly pretty happy with the new ownership. So, Young Gibbert says, I want to trust Gary Neville, who understands the European game and the European fan. Okay, but still, that's not really progressing the game. If you stay stuck in that, Gibbert, this isn't just, unfortunately, and I just want to touch on this because as a North American, this is pretty close to my heart. Elitism and protecting football or soccer, this sport, as just a European thing or just a South, it's ridiculous. It's a global sport. It is the most watched sport in the entire world. And just because I was born in Canada and I consume this sport in Canada doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to have an opinion on how the sport should play out because I'm not European. If you're no disrespect meant at all, by the way, at all. But exactly. So if you like tradition, then you're being an elitist and you're basically saying this is how it's going to be or get out. So if that's how you want to be, sure. If that's how the sport wants to be enjoyed by Europeans, where it's the European way or no way, then own it and say that. But I hate this idea of being the biggest sport in the world, but really also saying, oh, no, just the European way or no way. That's the thing I'm saying. So
but here's what's the detriment though? What takes away, what is putting a game at the end of the year after competitions are done?
Yeah.
You put it after the Champions League final, so there's no risk of it being there. What is the risk?
I want to say here, Gibbert says
maybe an issue. I would say you may have issue with it on years where there's international tournaments. Like say it's the World Cup was in the summer when it's supposed to be, or the Euros is in the summer when it normally is. Maybe you run an issue with it then, because then maybe an England player goes down with injury in the All-Star game and now he's out for the Euros or anything like that. So maybe I could see that. Like what's the outside
I can see
of
what
that,
Gibbert. I can see what Gibbert's saying. Gibbert's saying that I'll never support a team with a Liverpool or a City player on a team with a United player. Here's the deal with that. Okay,
but you're not going there to support.
Listen. Before you even say that, My take for that, Gibbert, is this. You still watch the Premier League, don't you? You watch Liverpool play, don't you? You're not supporting them, but you're consuming the sport. If there was a game where Liverpool and City players are on a team with United players, you're there to support your United players. You're still going to watch the game, but you don't have to sit there and say, I love Darwin Núñez because he's playing with Ronaldo. No one's saying that. But watching Darwin Núñez link up with Ronaldo to smash in a goal against Kepa or whatever, I'm just saying, I think it adds an interesting element to it, honestly. I really think it does. And I think that the longer you try to stay closed off as a sport and exclusive and traditional and elite, which I respect, but I think that just harms the sport at the end of the day. Because let's be clear, it is a global game. It's 2022. We watch games from all countries around here, right? So I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. SNG, that is a phenomenal point. SNG in chat says, what about national teams? Harry Kane goes to play with Jadon Sancho. Harry Kane's a Tottenham guy. What, now you suddenly don't support it? That's a really good point, SNG, that I didn't even cross my mind. It's the same bloody thing, man. It's the sport that we love. I'm not saying go out there and say Liverpool has the best players now because they're playing in this all-star game that I have to watch. No, but I think the idea deserves a little more credit than it's getting.
Yeah. I think what you do is you make it so it's not like a team of the season kind of thing. I think what you do, if they want to do North versus South, which I think has a lot of potential, right? I think what you do then at that point is you take the best player from every team, at least one player from every team, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may have, like, Man City obviously is going to have, or if you want to look at it, Arsenal will probably have 3, Fulham will probably have 1, if you look at it that way. But I think you take at minimum the best player from every team, and then you sprinkle in whatever else you want to do. They can even add fan voting into it, so that way you get, the fans get a little bit more control over it. But you then have like this full-on system, and you can get best coach from the North versus best coach from the South. You can manage that however you want to. So there's a lot of different avenues for it. And again, if you don't want to support a Liverpool player, then don't support the Liverpool player, but go support your player that got selected to this All-Star game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't buy the Liverpool All-Star jersey, because then, like, if they wear an All-Star jersey, like kind of what the NFL does or what Major League Baseball does or an NBA does, then go buy a, if you're a Liverpool supporter, go buy a Núñez, South team, or go, what I mean? Like, there's different ways that they can make this work. And I agree with you that I think the only people that don't want this to work are the people that are hard stuck in the way that this is how it is, and this is how it'll always be. I don't think I don't think there's a big enough deterrent for me.
Yeah.
The only big risk is injury. That's the only big risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you limit each player to 45 minutes, if you limit them to a half, it's the same as it. They're going to be running the same risk as if they were playing or doing a practice session anyways. So what's the real detriment there?
Yeah, cool. Really good points, man. I always encourage, like, no matter what, just have an open mind, have an open discussion, and I think that's the main thing.
Contribute the money to charity.
That's what. Yeah.
Turn it into a charity event.
So we talked about this in my chat a couple of streams ago, and someone said that I would, and I can't remember who it was, but someone said that they want to they would support the cause if it was donated to charity. So I agree. I want to comment on this. Gibbert says, you think Bully and the Glazers would want it if there was no financial gain or aspect? I just want to say respectfully, Gibbert, I love you from the bottom of my heart, but please don't ever put Bully and the Glazers in the same sentence. I've seen nothing from Todd Bully that makes me think he's a money-hungry piece of shit. He has run a phenomenal franchise in America without being a money-hungry owner. The Ricketts family, who was actually rumored to buy Chelsea, runs the Chicago Cubs. They play in the same sport as Todd Bully's Dodgers. And no, I know exactly. Just examples, but all owners are not created the same. Like, I agree with what you're saying, Gibbert, 100%, but I would argue all owners are not created the same. So some owners will for sure want a financial aspect, but like Mykal said, that could be more commercial attraction for someone to watch, a new team that they haven't. So a neutral fan tunes in for the first time to this big all-star game, and they see Cristiano Ronaldo and they fall in love with Manchester United. That could bring new people to the sport and to the team. So I think, yes, some people can be seen as evil, like super villain owners who just want money, but I think if you play the long-term game, it's just great exposure for the sport.
Because here's the thing: if this was to happen, let's say that they announced that this was happening, guarantee you the stadium sells out. I guarantee you that every single media outlet in the world is going to want to buy this. And then if you turn it into a charity event, all match proceeds are going to charity. All shirt sales are going to charity. Boom! Immediately, what happens is you have a good cause behind it, so the players have a reason to want to go. Plus you're being named as one of the best players in the Premier League. Like, obviously they do team of the season and you get that kind of shit, right? But to get the honor of saying that you represented your club as the best player from your club, like what player doesn't want that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I guarantee you every player that would participate in that is going to keep that shirt on their wall forever. That's a huge thing. You know what I mean? So again, the only deterrent that I could understand the argument for is the risk of injury. And even then, to my point earlier, that there's ways that you could manage that, because here's the thing: no one's going to 2-foot somebody in a fucking all-star game. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen.
And
like,
here's the thing I want to say too, as fans, a lot of the times, unless you're like Portland or Seattle or something, but most of the times as fans, we care more about it than the actual players do. So like the West Ham Chelsea game was so heated where Jared Bowen got robbed from that goal, and it was so heated. The players were going back and forth, pushing, shoving, arguing. As soon as the game was done, hugs, smiles, laughs. You can hate it as a fan and say, oh no, you have to die for this team, walk away and slap any player that comes that's not our colors. But like, our team colors, I should be very clear with my wording, but you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where sometimes as fans we care a lot more than the actual players on the pitch. And I guarantee Heung-min Son wants to link up with Ronaldo for a game, wants to link up with these elite, because it's, you know, like, so yeah, I don't know.
I guarantee the players would want it. I guarantee no player that you're gonna go, hey, we've selected you as one of the best players from your team. We want to have you play against the other best players in the, like. That's one of the reasons you play the game, is because you want to play against the best players in the world. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like there's a reason that's why you're in the Premier League. Like, you want to play for one of the best teams. You want to represent yourself against one of the best players in the world. Like, there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? And then again, if you market it as a charity event, it has prowess now because there's a reason behind doing it as well. Yeah. You know, make it go to, you know, the health, what is it, the HSS or whatever, what's the HHS, or the health supporters or health workers in
NHS,
England. Yeah, NHS, there you go. Like, put a reason behind it, make it a cancer charity event, you know, something like that. Like, there would be a reason for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Literally, sorry to cut you off there, brother, but Olympic Link says here in chat, you ask both Messi and Ronaldo if they join up with each other for one match only. Guaranteed both are saying yes without even thinking about it.
Yeah, that's to your point. Yeah, like, Son's gonna want to play with Ronaldo. De Bruyne, I guarantee, wants to play with CR7. Like, the opportunity just to be on the, like, if you watch the so this takes me back to the Arsenal documentary, the All or Nothing.
Yeah.
When Ramsdale walked into the Arsenal training ground and he was showing everybody that he got CR7's shirt, all the players on that team were pissed off at him and jealous because he got CR7's shirt.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so you tell him, hey, we're giving you the chance to go play in this game. Now, given the opportunity, like, go to CR7 and be like, hey, you've been selected as Manchester United's best player, which all not, but, you know, we want you to play, you know, in this All-Star game. It's going to be a charity event, blah, blah, blah. You 45-minute half showdown kind of thing. Sure, it's the same thing as doing preseason fucking friendlies that no one cares about, and you go to the United States and play in this game against fucking on the MLS side. You're running the same risk, but now you're not
beat Chelsea, by the way. Yeah,
exactly. So, like, there is no downside to it. And anybody that has a downside to it, I don't think there's any legitimate argument for there being a downside.
Yeah.
The only one that I can ever hold up to my ear would be the injury one, because there is always a risk to it.
Like Gibbert said here, the idea sounds good, but players wouldn't want to play too many more games or whatever. But I said, and what you said, it's one game. Like, yes, they don't want to play more games, which I even said that as an argument, but I realized it's just one game. So anyways, that was we could go on for hours. I just want to be a little aware of the time. Again, I'm sorry. I will put my hand up and say, guys, I'm absolutely exhausted. I did a good 6 hours of coverage earlier in the FM playoffs. I could go on and on, but I want to be mindful of that as well. That was a phenomenal debate, though, and we could go on for hours. Both Mykal and I love to talk about the sport, and that's why we're here. If you are still around on Twitch, we want to thank you very much. Please give Mykal87 a follow on Twitch if you don't already, and of course I'm OfficialH2 on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment down below about what you thought of this episode. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, or anywhere that you get your podcasts, please consider downloading the episode and following the podcast as well, so you don't miss future uploads. Again, my apologies for not uploading episode 8. I will be doing a double upload on YouTube, and then we'll get them subsequently up for all your podcast listening avenues. Having said that, that looks like a wrap to episode number 9. Thank you again for a phenomenal evening chat. You guys are amazing as always. I hope to see you guys again soon. Mykal, thank you, brother, for another amazing episode. Please say your goodbyes here before we head off.
Okay, bye. I don't really have anything else to add.
It.
It was just a good fun episode. So
absolutely.
Next week is going to be, will probably be a little bit more off the cuff because there's going to be basically no games. Well, next week's not the week after that will be a little bit more.
Episode 11 will be a little
discussion, a little bit more discussion based because there's not going to be a whole lot of games to really cover. We might be able to touch base on some of the international games.
Which reminds me, please join Michael's Discord. Please join my Discord. Give us your topics in there that you want us to talk about because we will use those for future episodes as well. But yeah, having said that, guys, this is officially a sign off. I'm OfficialH2 saying goodbye. Michael, say bye, brother.
Bye-bye.